to Citi Field and welcome to Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN, presented by Taco Bell. The rubber match of a three-game series between the Mets and the visiting Dodgers. Chase Utley, you know how they feel about him here. They don't like him anymore now that he's driven in 9 runs in the first 2 games of this series. And it's not going to be easy for the Mets to win this game and win this series because Clayton Kershaw, virtually untouchable this year, is on the mound for the Dodgers tonight. Let's get to the highlights from this week. It was a 3-run double on Friday night from Chase Utley to tie the game at 5, but then Curtis Granderson walks it off for the Mets in the bottom of the 9th. The Mets win 6-5. In last night's game, you knew eventually things would bubble to the surface and maybe boil over, and they did. Noah Syndergaard throwing behind Utley. He gets tossed. Utley later in the game hits not 1, but 2 home runs. That one was a grand slam, and the Dodgers cruise to a 9-1 win. A look at where these two teams are right now. The Dodgers looking up at the Giants, 5 games back of their arch rivals in the National League West, and the Mets now a half game back of the Nationals after Washington won earlier today. Hi, everybody. So a lot to talk about tonight. Dan Shulman, Jessica Mendoza, and Aaron Boone. As we said, Aaron, you knew eventually things would boil over. Syndergaard threw behind Utley. Syndergaard got tossed. Terry Collins got tossed. And then Utley hits 2 home runs later in the game.
Yeah, he had a huge night. And Chase Utley came into this series public enemy #1 to the New York Mets and their fan base based on his days as a Philly torturing this franchise. And then, of course, the slide heard around the world last postseason. When was the retaliation going to come? Well, Noah Syndergaard decided last night, only they missed him. And then he got tossed from the game, and then Chase Utley took the game over. 2 homers, 5 RBIs to even the series, this 3-game series. And now they hand the ball to their ace, Clayton Kershaw, with a chance to win the series.
And as great as Kershaw has been his entire career, he may be pitching the best baseball of his life right now. Look at what he's done just in the month of May. 5 starts, 5 wins, 55 strikeouts, 2 walks. Since the mound was established at 60 feet 6 inches away from the plate, which was in 1893, nobody has ever had a 5-start stretch like Clayton Kershaw has had. He'll try to take it 1 step further, make it an incredible month with another great start here tonight, and he is just pitching as well as he ever has.
Oh, and there is no one in baseball that can better hone in and execute their craft better than him. And what is his craft? He has 3 dominant pitches: his fastball, curveball, and slider. The location of his fastball, pinpoint accuracy, all 4 quadrants. That sets up his best pitches, his curveball, the depth on this pitch, true 12-6. Watch the lower half of hitters and the way that they buckle on that pitch, his slider. This is the moneymaker. Watch the spin and the bite. So hard for right-handed hitters to pick up on that pitch as it slides right into the back foot of those hitters. But you mentioned it. Best month of his career. He only continues to get better.
With more remarkable facts about Clayton Kershaw, here's our equally remarkable Buster Olney.
Dan, Clayton Kershaw was a National League MVP in 2014, and he's making a strong early case in 2016. Think about these numbers. In his 10 starts this year, the Dodgers are 9-1, 8 games over 500. In the games he hasn't started, there's 6 games under 500. And talk about taking pressure off your manager. We're about 1/3 of the way into this season, and Dodgers manager Dave Roberts has yet to visit Kershaw on the mound, whether to talk to him or take him out of the game. Dan, back to you.
Really remarkable. Roberts told us that. The room went stunned silent. Nobody had ever heard that kind of a thing before. The trophy bag's already pretty stuffed. 3 Cy Youngs and an MVP. Kershaw might add to those totals this year. He'll take on the Mets here tonight. ESPN is presented by Taco Bell's Beefy Crunch and Cheesy Double Beef Burritos, and in part by Lexus, introducing the 255 horsepower Lexus IS 300 all-wheel drive. Some shots from the National League Division Series of a year ago, an exciting series won by the Mets in 5 games. Of course, you saw Daniel Murphy, not a Met anymore. What a series he had, what an October he had. Now a member of the Mets rivals, the Washington Nationals. Let's take a look now at the starting lineup for the LA Dodgers. Brought to you by Taco Bell, and the guy they love to hate here in New York, Chase Utley, will lead it off.
You will hear the boos as he walks up to the plate. He's only retaliated by 2 home runs, a double, and 9 RBIs just in this series alone. And then you bump it on down. Another guy with good numbers against the Mets, especially Bartolo Colon. Adrian Gonzalez, 444 with 2 dingers.
'43-year-old Bartolo Colon, the oldest player in baseball, making his 10th start, 11th appearance of the season, the active leader in wins and innings pitched. They are fired up, a bit of a bloodthirsty vibe here in New York right now with Utley in the box. And the fastball sails up and away, ball 1. It started with the slide last October, and then another chapter was written last night when Noah Syndergaard threw behind Utley, was tossed out of the game. Terry Collins came out and argued he was tossed out of the game, and then Utley retaliated the best way you can by hitting 2 home runs later in the game. Roller to second, and they'll love that first out here tonight. If you didn't know any better, though, when you watched Utley, when the pitch went behind him last night, when he hit the home runs, there was no change, and there rarely is, but there was no change in his facial expression at all. But he might be the only guy in the ballpark who can make that claim. Adrian Gonzalez relaxed tonight as he gets ready to make his way.
A little FaceTime.
Yeah. We'll take care of you, Adrian. Here's Corey Seager. Hit a home run last night, having himself a very nice May. Has picked it up from where he was in the first month of the season, and the numbers are pretty impressive for a kid who just turned 22. A 43-year-old facing a 22-year-old. And the 43-year-old's doing pretty well still. He's a viable part of this rotation, and year after year puts up the numbers, keeps them in games, always generates some highlights. As Seager lines a ball to right field, charging and sliding is Granderson to make the catch.
Well, after all fastballs to start off this game, 2-seam and a 4-seam we saw, there was the first off-speed pitch, a slider that Seager got pretty good contact, perhaps just a little bit out in front, and that ball hangs up just enough for Granderson to make a nice running catch coming in. You see the break on the slider there, kind of hitting to the bottom of the zone, and Seager gets a good piece of it, perhaps just a little bit out in front, and Granderson hauling it in.
Colon is a guy who throws a ton of strikes, despite the fact that he doesn't throw nearly as hard as he did as a young pitcher. He will challenge you. He is in the zone, on the edges, as he starts former Met Justin Turner with a strike over the outside corner. Turner, who went 10 for 19 against the Mets in the division series last year, coming off microfracture knee surgery in the offseason, hitting .233 so far this year. And in the hole, 0-2. Needing face time is Adrian Gonzalez as he waits on deck, hoping to get up here in the first inning. He's had a big series for the Dodgers, 6 for 9 so far here at Citi Field. Mets winning Friday, Dodgers winning last night. And a big crowd here to see the Mets and to see Clayton Kershaw and to boo Chase Utley.
Good little mix.
Yeah.
We're going to hear it all.
Yep. Colon broke in with the Indians way back when. Not quite 1986 back when, as they celebrate the 30th anniversary of the Mets World Series championship here this weekend.
And when he first broke in, he was routinely up in the triple digits. High 90s, always with the fastball. It was in the middle and later part of his career where he really started to develop that 2-seam fastball, which is such a key pitch for him now. He'll still mix in four seams, but it's a lot of two seams that he commands to both sides of the plate.
And a swing and a miss to strike out Turner. 3 up, 3 down, go the Dodgers. Clayton Kershaw to the mound when we come back. Clayton Kershaw on the mound for the Dodgers tonight. Let's take a look at the lineup that he is going to face for the New York Mets here in the final game of this series. It's brought to you by Taco Bell.
Well, Yoenis Cespedes has been one of the best offensive performers in all of Major League Baseball, leading the National League in home run, tied for third in RBIs, and getting on base at a much more regular clip. And Neil Walker replaced a legend at second base for the Mets, has hit left-handed pitching very well this year, something he has not done well in the past.
Well, what can you say about Clayton Kershaw that hasn't already been said over the last couple of months? As good as he's been, he's even better than that so far this year. Look at that, 95 strikeouts and 5 walks on the season. A Major League leading 1.48 ERA. He's already thrown 3 shutouts this year. And he had a dominant performance against the Mets earlier this season, not that long ago, about 3 weeks ago, back at Dodger Stadium. In that game, it was one of his shutouts, 3 hits, 1 walk, 13 strikeouts. Curtis Granderson, who ended the game Friday with a walk-off home run, leads it off for the Mets as always here tonight. And takes a fastball, high ball 1. Granderson hitting just .201 on the season, does have 9 home runs. And Kershaw falls behind 2-0. Again, only 5 walks this year in 79 innings. Granderson hits it hard, straightaway center field. Peterson back, and it's over his head and off the wall. And Granderson aboard with a leadoff double. Just the 3rd extra base hit Kershaw's given up to a lefty this year. All of them doubles, and Granderson's got 2 of the 3.
Guys, we saw this so much from Curtis Granderson down the stretch last year in the postseason, even against lefties, getting himself into good hitters counts. And on a 2-0 count, he gets a fastball in the outer half around the thighs, and you see there just trying to drive that ball right back through the middle. Jock Peterson gets turned around a little bit, but really no chance for him to track that down. A great start for Granderson and the Mets.
And the crowd now really fired up early. Leadoff man at second base as Drupal Cabrera, the shortstop, hitting .277, is the batter. Well, if you didn't know any better, you'd swear it was October here tonight with the vibe in this ballpark.
It is electric.
Yep. 0-1 the count on Cabrera. Yoenis Cespedes is on deck for the Mets as they try to strike early against Kershaw. Slider bounced weakly third base side. Kershaw will let it go to Turner. Wise play. Turner will get the out at first, but Granderson comes to third. Now Cespedes, the National League leader in home runs, tied for second at the outset of play today in RBIs. Leads the league in slugging. And it looks like here in the very first inning, the Dodgers are going to bring the infield in.
Although it looks like maybe now Utley's backing off at second base. I agree with it because it's so hard to string hits together against Clayton Kershaw, and with one out and only one run in scoring position right now, why not try and cut it down?
Now Utley's walking back in. So Turner's kind of halfway, everybody else in. Turner a little backed up, playing to the pull side for Cespedes.
There's that wipeout slider to start. 90 miles an hour. That's usually a two-strike pitch for Kershaw right there, that he starts in the zone and buries to that back leg. That'll often be his chase pitch he goes to for strikeouts. But here, that runner on third starts Cespedes out with it.
In the dirt and blocked by A.J. Ellis, who is starting for the 9th time in 11 Kershaw starts this year. As Jess showed you in the pregame, Kershaw's basically a three-pitch guy: fastball, curveball, slider. Every now and again will throw a changeup, and once in a blue moon will throw an eephus, but he's got 3+ pitches. Fastball popped up foul. It'll drop beyond the reach of Gonzalez.
That's the pitch right there you really want to try and put in play if you're Cespedes. That's the one pitch to handle. As we look at the repertoire of Clayton Kershaw, usually up around 93 with that fastball. The big change of pace, 20 miles an hour almost difference between that curveball, which works as that changeup, and then the wipeout slider, which is coming right now. He'll throw in the upper 80s, 90, and try and bury down and in to the righties.
Taken down and in.
And that's where Cespedes has gotten a lot better, Jess. His ability to lay off pitches. Can he continue to do it and get another pitch to handle is the question, but that's where he has made his biggest strides as a hitter.
He swung at the slider, his first pitch, and that's why they've gone back to it, but he's held up.
Granderson at third, one out here in the bottom of the first inning. And a 2-2. Did he go? On the appeal, he did not. Says Phil Cuzzy, the first base umpire. The count now full.
That tells you so much, the confidence of Kershaw, too, for him to come back to the slider, knowing that he didn't bite 2 times, and he comes back, elevates it just a little bit, and that's why you see Cespedes try to bite. Almost goes all the way around, just holds up. That's a strikeout if that's Cespedes a year ago.
(3-2). And now he chases in the dirt and strikes out for out number 2.
Well, that's confidence by Ellis and by Kershaw, knowing eventually they can get him to chase. He throws him his best slider to start, down and in, but then Cespedes gets a little patient, able to lay off one in the dirt, then the pitch he needed to put in play, that fastball right down the middle, a good take there, another one to run it full, but Kershaw, not believing he could continue to hold up, expands the zone one more time on a 3-2 count with the base open, and finally gets the chase to put him away.
So now it's up to Neil Walker, the second baseman, swings at the first pitch, pops it up, and Kendrick won't have a play. It's just back into the seats. Walker, the longtime Pittsburgh Pirate, coming to the Mets this year, and he's done a great job batting against lefties. He's hitting .324, slugging over .700 against lefties this year. Now, granted, this is not your normal lefty out of the mound, but he has been a terrific hitter from the right side of the plate so far this season.
Oh, last year, remember, he was pretty much a platoon player in Pittsburgh. Was lost most all of his at-bats from the right side.
at the knees, 0-2.
And one thing Kevin Long, the hitting coach, the outstanding hitting coach for the New York Mets, has worked with Walker on is eliminating the toe tap that he had from the right side. Meaning he'd toe tap and then go into his stride. Now he's kind of eliminated that and going right into a stride, and it's paid off these first 2 months of the season from the right side.
Just missed inside, says Tom Hallion. Ball 1. Kershaw giving up a leadoff double to Granderson. Granderson takes third on a ground out. Cespedes strikes out. And now Kershaw trying to strand the runner if he can get Walker. Opportunities so few and far between against Kershaw this year. Curveball in the dirt. More than half of the innings thrown by Kershaw this year have been 3 up, 3 down. This obviously not one of them, but just another way. And there are probably going to be about 100 different ways that we tell you tonight about how special he has been so far this year. 59% of the innings in which he's pitched. 1, 2, 3. Chris Sale, pretty good in his own right, second at 49%. Got a piece to stay alive.
Walker's done a good job first laying off the slider in the dirt, laid off the curveball in the dirt, and here a little too close to take, just able to get a piece of that slider. You wonder, it looks like Walker's discipline is to say, hey, I've got to make him get the ball up because anything down is probably going to break down into the dirt. So I wonder if at some point they might climb the ladder with a fastball here.
2-2 again. Fastball swung on, fouled off. Kershaw up at 96 miles an hour with that fastball.
Walker was lucky to get a piece of that, and that shows you why he's seeing the ball so much better from the right side, especially against lefties, is that to be able to foul off the slider at 90 before that, and then 96 up at your letters. Just barely. Look how late he is on this, but gets a piece to stay alive in this at bat.
And gets a piece of another pitch. That time Kershaw going back to the slider. I think we've only seen one curveball in the first 18 pitches tonight.
And you'll see Kershaw manipulate this pitch, throw it 2 different ways when he wants it for a strike versus a ball. And this one, it has that depth. You see it drop out of the zone. Again, Walker trying to stay alive.
Eighth pitch of the at-bat upcoming. Swing and a miss. He got him. So the leadoff double is stranded at third. No score at the end of 1. Citi Field. No score going to the top of the second. Adrian Gonzalez will lead it off against Bartolo Colon. Colon getting the Dodgers in order in the first. Gonzalez 6 hits in 9 at bats in this series. He's raised his average to .295. And he's 12 for 27, a .444 career hitter against Colon. He'll be followed by Yasiel Puig and then Jock Peterson. The Dodgers sitting at 26 and 24, 5 back of the Giants. The Giants won again today, took 2 out of 3 from Colorado. 8-3 win for the Giants today. Johnny Cueto, another terrific outing, 6 innings, 1 run. He's 8-1 on the season with a .231 ERA. The Mets a half game back of the Nationals after Washington beat St. Louis 10-2 earlier today. Steven Strasburg, speaking of guys pitching well, he got the win, 6 innings, 1 run. He's 9-0.
And he's looking good.
He's got a .269 ERA. It's a 4-game split between the Cardinals and the Nationals.
Amazing what a new contract will do.
3-1, fouled back, and a full count on Gonzalez. So the Mets a half game back of the Nationals. Philadelphia lost today to the Cubs, so they are now 2 games over 500, 3.5 back. And Miami defeated Atlanta today, so they are also 3.5 back. Giants, meanwhile, we talked about them in the West. They've won 15 out of 17 right now. 3-2 outside, ball 4. Leadoff man aboard, and that'll bring up Yasiel Puig. Puig hitting .250 on the season. He has shown signs of progress and maturity and development and so forth in some areas. Still kind of frustrating the Dodgers in other areas. Case in point, hit a ball off the wall that he thought was gone and watched it from home plate. Dave Roberts took him out of the game because he only got to first base. When he does make a mistake, give him credit for owning up to that mistake, which he's doing a much better job of this year. But I think a lot of people around the Dodgers still wondering if all that perceived untapped potential is ever going to come out. Is there still a star player here? Potential star player.
Well, obviously the talent's there, and you can tell if he's going to have a good night at the plate by his takes. You watch his body, you watch his momentum.
Little pop-up, caught in foul territory by Campbell for the first down. Hey, tomorrow we've got a Memorial Day doubleheader for you on ESPN, starting off right here at Citi Field. We'll have the Chicago White Sox taking on the Mets. Matt Harvey on the mound for the Mets tomorrow, and then it'll be the Twins and the A's at 4 o'clock Eastern. Both games also streaming live on Watch ESPN and the ESPN app. Minnesota, by the way, swept Seattle this weekend.
Wow. Yeah, they did.
Yep. They've won 4 in a row overall. Here's Jock Peterson with a runner at first, 1 out. No score in the top of the second. Peterson hitting .246, 8 home runs. Gonzalez not a threat at first base as Peterson looks at a strike.
You hear Jock Peterson just kind of calmly say to Tom Hallion, the home plate umpire, that ball's out. Knowing that was a couple inches off the plate. It was off a K zone, but again, those are pitches that Bartolo Colon, who has outstanding command, if he's on his game, will tend to get an inch or 2 off the plate that other guys might not.
He's coming off a very strong performance against Washington his last time out. 7 innings, only 1 run. As we mentioned, he's the active leader in wins and innings. He's second among all active pitchers in shutouts. And the #1 guy is Clayton Kershaw. Kershaw's got 3 this year, 15 in his career. Colon's got 13 in his career. Popped up at a shallow right. Walker under it, makes the catch, 2 down. You know, there's a tendency just to think of Bartolo Colon as this version of Bartolo Colon, which is still a very effective pitcher, but he's known as much for his weight or the home run that he hit or some of the things that happen on the base paths or defensively sometimes. The guy's had a heck of a career. He's won a Cy Young. He's had 2 20-win seasons, and he's won 222 games.
Well, his career is almost the tale of two Colognes, and Booney mentioned it earlier. He's reinvented himself throughout his career to be really two different pitchers, two different types. He's not blowing it by anybody, but if you watch him right now with his two-seam fastball especially, the way he'll manipulate that pitch to kind of come around the plate, get it to run, especially to these righties.
Now Kendrick swinging a hot bat recently, steps in to face Cologne.
I came up the same time as Bartolo Colon. We played against each other in the minor leagues when he was a flamethrower, and the one thing he always had was elite fastball command. Back then it was 98 and he would dot it wherever he wanted. Now you're just seeing that even with less stuff, when you have elite command, you can pitch for a long time.
Grounded weakly back toward the mound, and he knocks it down, but in the process knocks it far enough away from himself that he doesn't have a play.
Well, the second right-handed hitter this inning that he's run that two-seam fastball in on the hands and breaking a bat. He got in hard on Puig. Here he runs another ball in on Kendrick. And I think he took it for granted that he was going to get there. He probably needed to be a little more aggressive in going after. I think he just figured, oh, I got this, I got a beat on it. It doesn't quite secure it in the glove because it's hit so weakly. And the Dodgers now with a scoring opportunity with 2 outs.
Cologne charged with an error on the play, so Gonzalez to second, Kendrick at first with 2 down. And the batter is A.J. Ellis, the catcher, hitting .209. And a fastball for a strike. Cologne's such a contrast from the rest of the Met rotation. All the young arms. All of them throwing significantly harder than Cologne does, but still a very productive part of this team. 0-2.
Watch the two-seam action on this. The sink down in the zone. Plawecki does a good job of catching it on the inside corner and catching it out in front to keep that ball from continuing to dive, to give Hallion a good look. And now he can expand around the periphery with either the four-seam or possibly another two-seam. A lot of times you'll see him kind of set up this next pitch with a four-seam fastball off the plate away, get the take, and then run a two-seam fastball the next pitch back to the outside corner.
This is down and away, ball 1.
We'll see now if he does. That's designed to be a ball all the way to get the take. Let's see if now he tries to work it off that same outer half off the plate away, have Ellis quit on it, and then run it back to the corner and try and get the freeze. Coming back in possibly.
Malone shook him off. Now has the sign he wants. Checks the runner Gonzalez out at second. And the 1-2. He did try to go back to the outside corner, but he missed with that four-seamer.
That was the four-seamer though. So that now could possibly set up this next two-seam back. Okay, I've showed Ellis 2 pitches off the plate away. His discipline is there to take that pitch. Now we'll see if he tries to just take a little off and run it back to the outside corner.
Two. Left it up. Little bloop though on the broken bat. Carries out to Walker, and that ends the inning. 2 men left on by the Dodgers to the bottom of the second. No score. Way to becoming one of the very best pitchers in the history of the sport. Already 4 ERA titles, 3 Cy Youngs, an MVP, and he might be getting better based on what we've seen in the first 10 starts so far this year. His career ERA is 2.39. That is the best of any pitcher in baseball since 1920, the live ball era. And as you can see, I mean, Hoyt Wilhelm is kind of in the vicinity. Then you're up to 275. Phenomenal pitchers. Whitey Ford, Sandy Koufax, Jim Palmer. And you think of all the great pitchers who have pitched since 1920. With the Lefty Grove, Bob Feller, and Bob Gibson, Pedro Martinez, Randy Johnson, on and on and on. And Clayton Kershaw has, by a fairly healthy margin, the best ERA of any of them.
We've talked about his 3+ pitches, but what makes him unique as well is his delivery. And the fact that it's a very unique delivery, it has some deception to it, but what impresses me the most is how he's able to repeat it. And if you really look at him and what he's able to do, bringing that front foot up, that knee up, and then that pause. Try to sit home in your living room right now, stand up and try to just do that one time. One time.
No!
Let alone replay. Repeat it over and over. You see how high his knee gets? He has that pause when he comes down. See how high that comes up, and then the pause down, and then out. He extends out, explosive drive. No. I asked him, when did this start? I mean, were you 9 years old and this is how you picked up the ball and were able to throw? And he said, no, I'd never had a pitching lesson until I was coming into my senior year of high school. And they always said it's like having a string from your hands to your foot. So that's what allowed me to kind of get that motion. So I would think when I brought my hands up, my foot came up, and he's like, it kind of just evolved to coming up so high. And then when I bring my hands down, my foot comes down, and the pause just sort of came. And he kind of laughed and said, it's funny because I never intended to have it be this different, this funky, but this is what I thought. You can see how they're in sync with each other and how athletic he makes a very unathletic move look.
And there is strikeout number 3 on the night.
So in Kershaw's mind, he's picturing that string. Hand to foot, and then has his hands come up. Watch what his foot does. Look how high his knee, it's almost at his chin. As his hands come down, the string comes down, so does his foot. And there's the senior year pitching lesson that has evolved to Clayton Kershaw.
You got to have pretty good strength and balance just to stand that way, much less throw a ball 90, 95 miles an hour with great accuracy. Wilmer Flores, the batter, just back off the DL for the Mets, had a hamstring issue. Matt Reynolds was sent down by the Mets, so Flores is back. He's at third base tonight. David Wright has a neck injury, has some sort of an issue with his neck. Second night in a row he is out, and there is some concern. The Mets do not feel it's related to the spinal stenosis. That is an ongoing issue for him as Flores strikes out. That's 4 for Kershaw, but Wright is on some medication, will undergo some tests, and it remains to be seen how quick of a situation this is.
I think it's the first strikeout we've seen with the curveball tonight. We've seen the fastball and, of course, the slider. But here, with 2 strikes, he goes to the curveball, starts it up around the belt. Flores starts, and that ball ends up in the dirt to get now his 4th strikeout in a row.
And his 99th strikeout of the season. Little chopper on the infield, barehanded by Utley, dug out by Gonzalez. Kevin Plawecki is retired and the inning is over. 3 up and 3 down. Go the Mets. A couple of strikeouts. And a good play by Utley charging in. The Mets are done. No score after 2. visit now with Jessica Mendoza, who before the game today had a chance to catch up with the Mets outfield star.
Here with Mets outfielder Yoenis Cespedes. You've had a lot of patience this year. What has been the key?
Bueno, sí, he tratado en el cage de los entrenamientos, he tratado de tener más paciencia en home play para poder tener mejores veces al bate. Creo que lo que he hecho con el hitting coach, los trabajos que hemos hecho en el cage es lo que me ha llevado a tener esa paciencia.
Is there anything you can show me that you've been specifically working on with that?
Yeah, I try, antes de 2 strikes, no tirarle a la bola que esté en la esquina fuera de home play, buscando bola del medio del home para adentro para tener mejores contactos.
I know your mom Estela has been a huge influence. Played softball, the Cuban national team. You throw the ball in underhand. What does she tell you about hitting? Advice?
Sí, ella no fue bateadora, pero me da muchos consejos. Ella no se pierde un juego, ve todos los pitches que van a pichar el día anterior y me dice lo que el pitcher puede tirarme y dónde me lo va a tirar. Me dice, te va a tirar rompimiento fuera, te va a tirar bola alta, tienes que tener paciencia, no te desesperes. Ella ha sido muy importante para mí.
She's got a lot of advice.
Yeah.
It seems to be paying off. I appreciate your time. Thanks.
You're welcome.
It's kind of awesome that mom's giving him some hitting tips. That's great.
I love that she's watching the pitchers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The days coming up.
Well, here's what
awesome.
I want. Here's what I want.
I've faced her too, and she's
mean.
Oh,
right?
she's pretty. I mean, she'll come at you, and I can't imagine the type of advice. I'm sure it's pretty serious to Cespedes.
I wonder what advice she gave him about facing Clayton Kershaw.
So I asked him that off camera, and he just kind of laughed and said, "More of a good luck." And he kind of tossed me that. He's like, "You want to try?" It's good luck.
Chase Utley greeted with boos again. If it bothers him at all, he sure doesn't show it. And he got the best kind of revenge for having been thrown at last night by hitting a couple of home runs later in the game. He's got 2 home runs, 9 RBIs. Of course, they will never forget here the slide, if you want to call it a slide, during the division series last year that broke the leg of then Met Ruben Tejada.
And you mentioned this earlier, Dan, but how he has handled this. I mean, can you imagine? Put yourself in his shoes. You're in the batter's box. Chance of how much you suck, boos, all of that, and he has not retaliated. I mean, he could have come out for a curtain call after the grand slam. He could have done something around the bases. He hasn't once showed anything, any kind of emotion.
How about what happened after he had the ball thrown behind him yesterday? Basically telling the guys in the dugout, stay back.
Here's the play that started all this and led to a rule change at second base. As Utley went in hard with no evidence of a slide, really, a roll block or whatever you want to call it, not even close to the bag. Tejada suffering multiple fractures in his leg. Utley did not play here at Citi Field in games 3 and 4 of the NLDS. That was in game 2 in LA. He didn't play here in game 3 and 4. The Mets and Dodgers played in LA 3 weeks ago, a 4-game series without incident. As he lines the ball into right field. And Utley with yet another hit. Interesting, when Dave Roberts, the Dodger manager, told us before the game that before the Friday game of this series, Terry Collins, Dave Roberts, and the umpires were gathered for the exchange of the lineup card, and a discussion was had about what could take place here. And Terry Collins said, hey, we just want to play baseball, don't want anybody to get hurt, nobody wants anybody to get suspended. And Dave Roberts felt the same way. Nothing happened in LA, but Dave Roberts told us before the game, well, here in New York, with the vibe and the crowd and the tabloids and just the general feel of the situation, it seemed like Dave Roberts was concerned coming into this series that something might happen.
Yeah, and wanted to address it, and that's why he went out there with Terry Collins and the umpires to address it. And Terry's reaction, I think he was caught off guard by what Noah Syndergaard did last night. And you can tell, I think even Rene Rivera, the catcher, who called for a changeup away, I think he had no idea. I think Syndergaard just took it upon himself with 1 out and nobody on base. This is my chance to exact some revenge. And then he goes and misses him.
Nobody thinks it was an accident.
No.
Whether you feel he should have been kicked out of the game or not, nobody feels it was an accident. Although Terry Collins says, how can you kick Syndergaard out of the game? You're judging intent. How can you be sure? But you make a good point. 99 times out of 100, when this is going to happen, the catcher calls for an inside fastball. Then at least you've got somewhat of an alibi.
Right. Right.
And Syndergaard, like all pitchers, says, well, it just got away from me. I didn't mean to do it.
Which I was surprised, because of all pitchers, I feel like he'd be the one to own up and say, you know what, I did try to hit him. That's something that especially once he got ejected, he got kicked out right away. It was immediately known that this was on purpose.
Unusual in that a pitcher was kicked out right away, and you can talk to 5 different people and get 6 different opinions on this. Everybody's got whether nothing should have been done, whether warning should have been given, whether Syndergaard should have been tossed. Some of this is old school, new school kind of stuff. There's a base hit into right field for Seager. Utley will make the turn and race around to third. The throw comes into second. If you didn't see it last night, here's what happened. After nothing happened in Utley's first at bat, the first pitch of this at bat in the third inning, right behind him, and Adam Hamari, the home plate umpire, tosses Syndergaard, then tosses Collins. Later in the game, not in that at bat, later in the game, Utley homers not once but twice. That was a grand slam. He drives in 5. And Aaron, I know you feel that Syndergaard should not have been kicked out of the game.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm not into drilling guys and hitting guys for posing for a home run or these kind of things, but I think the same result could have been had, and things could have been put, a stop could have been put to all this had there been a warning issued. So
if a warning is issued, Maeda can't retaliate, and he didn't retaliate. The big difference is, the only difference is Syndergaard gets to stay in the game.
Correct. And I think he probably should have stayed in the game. And I wish he would have been able to stay in the game.
Do you ever think there's a time where a pitcher, not the retaliating pitcher, the guy who throws the first pitch at somebody, should be kicked out of the game? Because let's be honest, everybody knew what he was doing. Everybody knew there was intent there.
A non-retaliatory, yes.
Yeah.
I guess if you can really determine and feel like something was done on purpose and it was done ineffectively in a dangerous way, up around the shoulders, up around the neck, up around the head, then I do think there is a time and a place where you could justify tossing someone.
So if he'd missed up around his neck or head, then you think
game changer,
right.
different for me.
Buster, this was the main topic in your column today. Bring us up to speed.
Yeah, and I think Major League Baseball does need to address the inconsistencies in some of the recent events compared to what happened last night. You guys remember the situation between the Jays and the Rangers where Matt Bush hit Jose Bautista. He was not ejected. Then last week, Phil Hughes threw close to Josh Donaldson. He was not ejected.
Ground ball to third, to second one, and that's all they'll get as the run scores. Keep going, Buster.
Yeah, and so the question is, in those 3 events, where in a couple cases you had players who weren't ejected, and then last night Syndergaard was ejected, they were handled very differently when it looked like in all 3 cases there was intent.
Well, and Phil Hughes threw close and then behind Josh Donaldson on consecutive pitches. And now Terry Collins, I think, is out to ask about the Seager slide, perhaps at second base.
Yeah, a couple things in play here. First, obviously Flores back playing his first game since coming off the disabled list. This is a ball that I think he dives too early for. I think if he takes another couple steps, he's able to field that ball on his feet and probably turn it into a better double play opportunity for the Mets. But clearly Seager goes across the bag there. Does he hold the bag? He goes on a pretty good straight line.
He's more beside the bag than past the bag.
Yeah.
But he's not making contact with the bag once he comes off it. Is that enough for them to overturn this, or for them to call the runner out at first to give the double play and end the inning, and that would take the run off?
He can go through it, but he's got to be able to hold the bag right
to prevent Chase Utley's run from scoring.
Right.
and if this is the case, here's what's tough about it. I mean, for Seager, he's got a chance to be safe, so he's got to try and slide a little bit later and quicker to try and get there. but also you don't want to put yourself in jeopardy of costing yourself a run when there's going to be no chance to turn this double play for Neil Walker.
And I don't think he has to hold on to the bag as long as he's within reach.
Exactly.
Of the bag.
This is
it's a close
kind of a gray area play here, though, on this rule.
And another part of the rule is he has to make contact with the ground before he gets to the bag, which he does. And a lot of times when you see guys go past the bag, it's because they make contact at or after the bag. So he's legal there as well.
Well, one of the parts of the rule says able to reach base with a hand or foot. It doesn't say touching the base with a hand. Now, he was able to reach. He was close enough to reach it, but he wasn't actually touching it when he slid by.
You don't have to. You just have to be able.
But here's the thing. If you're Seager, you understand it's a slow developing play where Flores leaves his feet. So your job is to get to second base as fast as you can, and you should really gauge your slide to the front of the bag there. You put yourself in danger of having this overturned by allowing yourself off.
And look what Neil Walker did. As soon as the play happens, as soon as he throws, he looks down at Seager and sees that Seager is not in contact with the base, and Walker right away points to the dugout as if to say, you got to have a look at this.
But I don't know if it's overturnable, because I think he could have. He's in position to be able to reach the bag. We'll see. Here we go.
Well, they will point to second. He's out there, and then first, safe there. No, everybody misunderstands this. They always point to second base first.
Which was already
he was already out there. And I wish baseball would change this.
Yeah.
Because this is confusing. He pointed to second and said he was out. But Seager was always out.
And Roberts almost reacted coming out of the dugout, and then they had to hold him back.
And then he pointed to first and said safe. So it is deemed to be a legal slide in the run score.
All things considered, they got the call right, and the right thing happened, because there was going to be no chance for the Mets to be able to turn that double play unless there was a violation by Peterson, which I think they got that call right.
And what Tom Hallion did was right. He's done what every umpire has done this year. They always point to second first, but you know, just about everybody in the ballpark, when they see that first fist go up for an out, they think they're talking about the double play, the second out.
Yeah, I said Peterson at second. I meant Seager sliding into second.
Adrian Gonzalez is the batter. So the run counts. Utley scores. The slide is legal. Fielder's choice RBI for Turner. And Clayton Kershaw and the Dodgers have a 1-0 lead. Popped him up. Flores backpedaling, still going back, reaching to his left, and makes the catch to end the inning. A run across and a lead for the Dodgers. The Dodgers up 1-0. Clayton Kershaw back to the mound for the bottom of the third. And Eric Campbell, the first baseman, looks at a first pitch strike. A leadoff double in the first by Curtis Granderson. He was stranded at third. 3 up and 3 down in the second. Kershaw's got 4 strikeouts through 2. And he's out in front of Campbell 0-2. Lucas Duda is out with a stress fracture in his back. And it looks like 6 weeks, maybe 8 weeks. The Mets just acquired James Loney, who was at AAA in the San Diego organization. And Loney, a guy that Terry Collins knows from back in the day. Left-handed batter, not a lot of power, but makes a lot of contact and hit for average. Good defensive player, and he is expected to be activated by the Mets on Tuesday. Chopper to short, charging Seager, 1 down. Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN, presented by Taco Bell, is brought to you by Infinity, luxury cars that deliver inspired performance, and Energizer, our longest lasting AA Energizer Max batteries ever. So the Mets dealing, we mentioned Duda at first. Wright's got a neck issue. Travis d'Arnaud's on the DL with a shoulder problem. They've got 3 regulars out right now, but they do have Bartolo Colon, who hit his first home run, became the oldest player ever to hit his first home run when he hit it earlier this month in San Diego off James Shields. And I think Colon was as surprised as anybody. In his last start, had a bit of a back issue, and not only didn't swing, told the opposing catcher he wasn't going to swing. Struck out 3 times. He's swinging now as he lines it foul, 2-1. He's just an entertaining guy.
It's must-see TV.
It really is.
Seeing Bartolo Colon swing the bat. Here was that.
I kind of wanted to flip at the end. A little bat flip.
It was not the fastest home run trot ever.
No,
But then a great silent treatment. They emptied out the dugout. Now, man, he's feeling it tonight. He's chasing high fastballs right now off Kershaw.
I think the back's feeling all right. Yeah, but that home run trot, Big Papi was envious of that thing. His little high fastball. The back's feeling okay.
And then right down the middle, he takes strike 3 call. That is the 5th strikeout for Kershaw, his 100th on the season, against only 5 walks. Nobody's ever done that in the modern era. Nobody's ever gotten to 100 strikeouts with fewer than 7 walks. He gets there at 5. To give you a little perspective, and granted it's early, it's still May, no pitcher in history's ever had a strikeout to walk ratio of 12-1. Phil Hughes holds the record. I think it's 11.6, something like that, 11.6-1. Kershaw right now is at 20-1, 100 strikeouts and 5 walks.
Unbelievable. And
it is.
It really is. And it's they got the strikeouts. It's the walks to me. And knowing that he throws balls and the way that he does it, he gets batters to swing and miss.
His numbers look like we're talking about an 18-year-old in high school who's going to be a first-round pick that year and is just dominating high school competition. But he's doing it in the major leagues. Granderson with a bouncer. And 9 in a row set down by Kershaw since the Granderson double began the night. 1-0 Dodgers. Buster Olney with Dave Roberts when we come back. By Taco Bell. Dodgers 1, Mets nothing, going top 4. Between innings, Buster Olney with Dodger manager Dave Roberts.
Dave, what have you seen in Chase Utley and how he's handled everything this weekend?
I think the thing for Chase that I've seen is that his pulse. He never wavers. He's got ice in his veins, and he just rises to the occasion.
What's it like for you to manage on the day that Clayton Kershaw pitches?
Well, you know, it's funny is that Clayton has said the days that he pitches, it's like I'm managing 24 players because it's the hands-off approach today for me.
Dave, thanks.
Thanks.
And as Buster mentioned in his pregame hit, literally hands off. Dave Roberts has not been to the mound when Clayton Kershaw's been on the mound this year, either to take him out or even to talk to him. Kershaw's made 10 starts coming to this one. Roberts has yet to go to the mound.
You don't want to mess with that.
Puig lines it back to the mound, speared by Cologne.
Cologne might not look the part, but he's got great reactions. Watch where his body goes and where his glove goes. Body goes one way, glove reacts, comes out the other.
But look at that perfect fielding position he gets into.
Both feet down.
You don't pitch this deep at 43 years of age without being an outstanding athlete. And like you said, he may not look it, but he's an athlete on that hill.
Jock Peterson ropes one to center field. Over the head of Lagares and up against the fence, and on his way to second is Peterson with a one-out double.
I was watching him BP before the game, and he was just looking so confident, so comfortable. And a lot of times I watch him, and he looks like he's working on so many different things. And on this pitch, 90 miles an hour, he gets a location he wants. Line drive over the head of Lagares, but watch him get that front foot down and stay back. Look at that body posture. That is what is so huge for Jock Peterson, is to stay in that perfect line, head to belly button, that back leg, all in line, straight up and down. And he was looking like that pregame. And he even said, I'm feeling good today, which I think every hitter wants to think, but he looked it.
There's Howie Kendrick. Well, the Mets already down 1-0, knowing Kershaw's on the mound. The task is difficult enough. Any extra run or runs the Dodgers might get make it that much tougher for the Mets. Kershaw looks extremely sharp after the leadoff double by Granderson. 9 in a row set down since, 5 by strikeout. Howie Kendrick in left field again tonight. He's had to be a versatile guy this year to get some playing time, and he's earned that playing time. He's been hitting well lately. .333 over his last 14 games. Dave Roberts looking for chances to get him in. He's a natural second baseman. He's made 11 starts there. This is his 11th start in left. He started 7 times at third and 4 times at first. But right now his bat is one that Dave Roberts wants in the lineup as often as possible. Carl Crawford not playing much at all. Trace Thompson playing some against lefties. Scott Van Slyke on the DL. Fly ball takes Granderson back. Tagging and coming to third. Peterson 2 down. The 2016 Major League Baseball Draft. It all starts here. Coverage begins Thursday, June 9th on MLB Network and MLB.com. Back in the day, Aaron, how did you find out you'd been drafted? How did it work? What year was it? Where were you? How'd you find out?
1994 at my parents' house, and got a phone call from the Cincinnati Reds. One of those great moments of your life, truly a dream realized. Had friends over, a lot of college buddies, high school buddies, spent the night and just hanging around, hoping and waiting on that call.
Nice. Here's A.J. Ellis, 2 down and a runner at third. A ball and a strike to count. Ellis popped up his first time up. Chase Utley has scored the only run of the game so far. Singled and came in on a fielder's choice. The Mets asked for a review of the Corey Seager slide at second, but it was not overturned. The slide was deemed to have been legal And as a result, it was a fielder's choice and a run instead of a double play that ends the inning. Tom Hallion got hit by that foul off.
Bartolo trying to run this fastball back to the inside corner, and Ellis a little bit late on it, and unfortunately for Hallion, it doesn't catch a lot of Plawecki. The run on that fastball, and then
I'll tell you, you heard him grunt when it hit him, but after that, I mean, he wasn't blinking, or that's some toughness right there. That had to hurt. 1-2 the count. Colon trying to strand a runner at third. Peterson doubled at third now with 2 down. Two. Got him. Right at the top end of the strike zone. A big out for Colon as the runner is stranded. It remains 1-0 after Colon freezes Ellis. Buster Olney will chat with Terry Collins when we come back. At Citi Field, the Dodgers with a 1-0 lead on the Mets. In between innings, Buster Olney with the Mets manager Terry Collins.
Terry, what was your take on the replay review on that play at second base?
Well, Buster, it's one of those plays that now with the new rule that, that there's so many definitions. So you got to try to maintain the base. He didn't do it. Can't slide by the bag. He did it. You got it. So it's one of those things that's confusing. That's what I told Tom. I said, with the interpretations, everybody has a different interpretation. We got to challenge it.
What do you think about your hitter's approach against Clayton Kershaw?
Well, he's great. He's great. So you better hope he makes a mistake. He doesn't make very many, so you better be ready to hit on every pitch.
Terry, thanks.
Terry Collins a little hoarse. He told us before the game he lost his voice yelling at the umpires last night when Noah Syndergaard got tossed out of the game.
Real quick, guys, that pitch right there, fastball in off the plate that he gets for a called strike. We'll see if, as the game continues, if that continues to be a part of the way A.J. Ellis and Kershaw attack. Tom Hallion, who's a very good umpire, but will tend to be big on the inside corner to right-handed hitters coming from the lefty. He's gotten a couple calls in there, and I feel like as the games unfold, they've gone a little more in with that hard fastball.
Hard slider fouled off, and as Asdrubal Cabrera stays alive at 0-2.
When you heard Cespedes tell us in the interview how that's exactly where he's looking on Kershaw. He's going to look inside So that's been his approach. And off camera, he said that was really the area. So for a lot of these righties, if they're looking in, slider is going to come get him.
Utley from near the bag at second throws out Cabrera, one down.
Well, let's take a look at the first at bat between Kershaw and Cespedes. Cespedes did a good job of laying off a couple of tough sliders in the dirt with 2 strikes and got the count to 3-2. But with first base open and a run on third base, Kershaw showed that he was not going to give in, even if it meant a walk, and he ultimately got the chase on 3-2 from Cespedes and a huge out to really get him untracked on that first inning.
Shift is on, 3 on the left side of the infield. Gonzalez well off the line at first, and there's another pitch that looks a little inside, called a strike, and it's 0-1. Just 1 hit so far for the Mets, a double by Granderson to lead off the first. Kershaw has set down 10 in a row since. 5 strikeouts and 5 groundouts. And this is the way it has gone. We showed you his remarkable May numbers: 5 starts, 5 wins, 55 strikeouts, 2 walks so far this month. I'm no expert, but I'd say he's a front runner for National League Pitcher of the Month.
I mean, here's the problem. If he starts commanding that inside corner with the fastball and is getting an inch or 2 off, that's a real problem for the hitters, because the discipline is to try and lay off that pitch, because that's the window that nasty slider comes out of.
And there's the big curveball swung on and missed. Strikeout number 6. In his career, Clayton Kershaw, 121 wins, 57 losses, an outstanding winning percentage, the best among active pitchers. We told you his ERA, his career ERA, is the best in the live ball era. He won 4 straight ERA titles, 2011 through 14. Nobody's ever done that before. He's won 3 Cy Youngs. He's won an MVP.
Only one thing left.
October?
Championship.
Yeah.
And guys, last week I was having a conversation with Madison Bumgarner, and he looked at me, he said about Kershaw, are we seeing maybe the greatest pitcher at his best right now?
Well, if he's able, and I don't want to say duplicate, but if he's able, he is 28 years old right now. If he's able to have 8-9 more years that are healthy, and maybe not as good as the first 8 or 9 have been, but really good years, he's got a chance to go down as one of a handful. Like, count them on one hand of the greatest pitchers who have ever lived.
When you know that some of the greatest pitchers in the game today are up on that front step, watching him, respecting him. To Buster's point, Madison Bumgarner saying, is this not the greatest pitcher? I mean, that's a rivalry. That's something you don't want to really always say out loud or admit. But it's the truth.
Well, his talent seems to be matched by his determination, his competitiveness, his work ethic, everything.
And his routine.
Yeah.
I mean, he has a regiment that he sticks to.
You know, like so many great athletes of our time, you know, there seems to be this obsession with perfection, and it doesn't just happen in the course of the game, but it's in all the days leading up to his start, the work. As you see, the frustration with not making the exact pitch he wanted.
Swung on and hit to deep left field, over the head of Kendrick and up against the wall on a bounce. Neil Walker into second with a double, snapping a streak of 11 in a row sent down by Kershaw.
Well, and there's the mistake. I think that's the one pitch if you're a Met right-handed hitter, that's the pitch you've got to dominate. And they wanted to come back in with the fastball, the inside corner. It leaks out over the heart of the plate. It's up and it's in the middle of the plate. And Neil Walker, as we touched on, has been so good from the right side since becoming a Met. He stings this ball to left center. It gives the Mets a chance now to tie this game with a runner in scoring position.
The batter Juan Lagares has homered in each of the first 2 games of this series, struck out in his first at bat here tonight. He's hitting .350 against lefties this year as he takes a strike. Against the lefty, Lagares, who's a terrific defender, will be in center field. Cespedes in left. Against righties, Cespedes is in center. Michael Conforto is in left. And he's the Mets' number 3 hitter, but he is not on the lineup tonight against Kershaw. Swing and a miss at a slider, 1-2. And that one was right down the heart of the play, but it almost looked like Lagares was sitting on something else.
And this is where the deception, I think, sometimes of Kershaw comes in. Because of what he's able to do with his slider more times than not, as a hitter, you're pulling the trigger and you see the bat of Lagares below the pitch. You don't know where that slider is going to end up.
Strike 3 called to end the inning. Another runner stranded. Is 7 strikeouts through 4 for Kershaw. Back to Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN, presented by Taco Bell. And as you can see from the scoreboard out there, Clayton Kershaw is the batter. And he kind of jabbed at it. They're maybe contemplating bunting for a base hit. Kershaw grounded out his first time up. 6 for 29 on the season, 5 singles, 1 double, a couple of runs driven in. The Dodgers up 1-0. Dan Schulman, Jessica Mendoza, Aaron Boone, Buster Olney with you here at Citi Field. We'll be with you again tomorrow afternoon. The Chicago White Sox will be here, a 1 o'clock start. The first game of the Memorial Day doubleheader here on ESPN. Ground ball out to second. And Kershaw thrown out. Broke the bat and might have gotten dinged by a piece of it. He barely got out of the box. Did a little fragment of that bat come up and get him in the side of the neck?
Well, it looked like he actually stung the ball pretty good. I guess maybe a little bit off the end. And look at it crack and then.
The entire, like the broken part of the bat.
Yeah, I think maybe scared him more than anything.
Yeah. So thankfully not a sharp edge or anything like that, and he appears to be okay. I'm all right, he says to Chase Utley as Kershaw heads back to the dugout. Utley comes up 1 for 2. Singled and scored the only run of the game back in the third, and they're booing him just as loud now as they did at the beginning of the night. See a bit of a welt on the side of Kershaw's neck.
All in the day's work.
Yeah. Liner to second, 2 down. On the MLB calendar this week, after the doubleheader we told you about tomorrow, back-to-back games between the Dodgers and the Cubs, Tuesday and Wednesday night here on ESPN. And 1 week from tonight, we will be at Busch Stadium in St. Louis as the Cardinals host the Giants. Jake Arrieta scheduled to start for the Cubs in the Tuesday night game against the Dodgers.
We're in the seats next week.
We are in the seats next week. We will be without Jess, though. You will be.
The Women's College World Series.
There you go.
In Oklahoma City. Those games will be on. You guys can choose between baseball or if you want to watch a little bit of softball. Championship.
We'll do both.
We'll check it out.
Flip it back and forth.
And Aaron and I will be in the seats in St. Louis. We'll be in the seats each of the next 3 weeks. The week after St. Louis is San Francisco, and then after that, Wrigley. Two-0 to Corey Seager, and he lines it over the head of Walker into right field, a base hit.
Great job here by Seager of knowing I've got a 2-0 count. I'm getting it ready to take a rip with 2 outs, nobody on base. That's a single there, but on a 2-0 count, knowing you're getting some kind of fastball from Bartolo Colon, he's looking to do damage with that swing. Just so happened he hit it on a line right at somebody to only be a single, but that's a mature approach there, and a guy understanding that this is a situation where I want to get something I can really do some damage with, extra base hit wise, maybe drive something out of the park.
Here's Justin Turner, who has driven in the only run of the night on a fielder's choice back in the third. The Dodgers with a 1-0 lead in support of Kershaw, who's been outstanding tonight. 2 hits, no walks, 7 strikeouts.
This is a bat Dodgers really need to get going. Their number 3 hitter, completely capable of having bigger numbers.
Turner's going to drop one into left center for a base hit, and Seager around to third.
Yes, you're right. Turner's been such an impact performer for the Dodgers the last couple of years, but off to a bit of a slow start. And I think a lot of it has to do with returning from that microfracture surgery, where instead of training all offseason, you're kind of rehabbing, slow to get started in spring training. But look, he hits in that 3-hole for good reason. He's been an impact hitter. It figures if they're going to be in the postseason again, it would figure Turner and Adrian Gonzalez would be doing what they've been doing the last few years in a Dodger uniform. And that's having an impact offensively.
And here is Gonzalez, a walk and a pop-up. The Mets don't put a shift on. Gonzalez is very good at taking the ball the other way, but they do have Walker playing extremely deep, way out in right field. Gonzalez does not run well, so Walker with more range being way out there and still theoretically with time to throw him out. But as you can see, Cabrera is still on the shortstop side of the bat.
Yeah, especially in these RBI situations. You throw that full shift on Adrian Gonzalez, he will absolutely try to take advantage. One thing Colon's done well in his first 2 at-bats is establish both sides of the plate with the fastball.
Colon's being overshadowed a little bit by Kershaw, but he's pitching a pretty good game himself.
It's been that 2-seam fastball, and you see Adrian Gonzalez showing why he is a plus hitter, and the fact that he lays off a pitch that we've seen a lot of lefties bite at.
Into right field, a base hit. Seager in to score. Turner on his way to third will be held there on a long RBI single by Gonzalez, and it's 2-0 Dodgers.
The reason why Adrian Gonzalez doesn't bite at something away, he always has a plan and approach, and in this at bat you can tell he's looking for something inside. Cologne gives him something up and in. He does a nice job, doesn't get it all the way on the barrel, but look at how powerful Gonzalez is. This is a little bit up onto the hands, not all the way on the barrel, but does a good job of getting his front hip cleared so he can place this ball in the outfield for an RBI.
So a big run driven in by Gonzalez to make it 2-0. First and third, 2 down. And the batter Yasiel Puig, who's 0 for 2. Last time robbed by Cologne on a fairly well hit ball back to the mound that Cologne speared and caught. Not the kind of production they were hoping for from Puig. He's been a little bit better lately. He even drew a walk each of the last 2 nights, just the 8th and 9th walks he's drawn this season.
That's where they've tried to attack him, and that's where they've gotten Yasiel Puig out, by running that 2-seam fastball in on his hands. And it looks like he's shaken up a little after that swing, but
right off the top of his left foot.
Yep. They may go show him something away as we get a really good look off that. Yeah, that's that'll do that to the face right there.
One. Fastball up, and it's fouled back.
It's a pitch that tied him up as well, and that was really in the heart of the plate. So that if you're Puig, that's a little adjustment you've got to make, because that ball should not be running in on your hands when it's out over the plate like that. That ball started away and ran really into the heart of the plate. That's a pitch you need to and want to do damage with Cologne against. A semi-mistake there.
Slider down and away, swung on and missed to end the inning. But a run for the Dodgers. They're up 2-0, middle of the 5th. on ESPN, presented by Taco Bell, is brought to you by T-Mobile. T-Mobile has doubled its LTE coverage since last year. Back at Citi Field, going bottom 5. Clayton Kershaw and the Dodgers now have a 2-0 lead after the RBI single in the top half of the inning off the bat of Adrian Gonzalez. And Kershaw facing the 6, 7, 8 hitters in the Mets lineup. Wilmer Flores, Kevin Plawecki, and Eric Campbell. And these are the 3 spots: third base, catcher, first base, where the Mets are currently dealing with injuries. David Wright, Travis d'Arnaud, and Lucas Duda.
And here's a great example of A.J. Ellis and Kershaw understanding that they may have a couple inches off that inside corner. They've thrown 3 pitches in a row, and that second one there, another ball off the corner after getting a call on off the corner of the previous pitch. And you're putting these Mets hitters in a position now to have to go swing at it. Makes the slider and opens up the outside part of the plate.
Back to the mound. 1 down. Let's go to our greater coverage of baseball play of the game, brought to you by T-Mobile.
Well, Clayton Kershaw's got 3+ pitches. His fastball he can locate. He's done it tonight. You see it up and in, down and away. He's also got his curveball with great depth, a true 12-6. Look at the way that this ball will start in the zone and break out of the zone. But his best pitch, and he's used it a lot tonight, has been the slider. Nasty to these right-handed hitters. Watch him break this pitch right to that back leg, but he can manipulate it. We've seen it, both those sliders and the sliders that he's thrown tonight. He'll throw it out of the zone, but he'll also be able to get it to not only have that depth, but also a nice horizontal movement to keep it in the strike zone. Very confusing for a lot of these right-handed batters.
The only hits off him tonight: a double to lead off the first by Curtis Granderson, and a double with 2 outs in the 4th by Neil Walker. Nasty slider, and it's 1-2. Strikeout number 8. Plawecki didn't like that call on the curveball. Let's check out another curveball that wound up in a strikeout earlier tonight when Kershaw was facing Yoenis Cespedes. 72 miles an hour is the average velocity. Not to discount the velocity and the importance of that, the difference from that to the fastball, but look at the break on that pitch.
Well, and Jess talked about it earlier, but you can't say enough about the deception that he creates with the delivery, which just adds a level to what is already very good stuff. That deception makes it so hard for the hitter to see the ball. It's a timing destroyer, but the ability to repeat that delivery, which allows him to have the elite command that he has, add it all up and you've got the best pitcher in the game.
Booney, hitting coaches are saying that Kershaw that delivery doesn't change at all, pitch to pitch to pitch. He gives away nothing, whether it's going to be a fastball, a slider, or a curveball with that delivery.
And you hear all the time, pitchers, can I repeat my delivery? Can that pitcher repeat his delivery? And it's such a key to a pitcher being successful and to having command. And I think when you have guys with elite stuff, but then have some kind of funkiness to their delivery, which Kershaw clearly has, Madison Bumgarner, Jake Arrieta, it just makes the stuff that much better.
Kershaw thought he had strike 3 here.
And he may have.
Grounder to short. And the inning is over. End of 5 here in Queens, and the Dodgers with a 2-0 lead. field with the Dodgers leading the Mets 2-0. They are celebrating the 30th anniversary of the 1986 World Series championship team here. One of the great players on that team was Keith Hernandez, and he is the subject of this week's Boondoggle. Go get him, Aaron. Now, this is a new one for you, right? This is relatively untested.
Yes, yeah. This is a first timer. Let's see how I do.
Kind of wish he grew a mustache, but
yeah,
kind of do too. Kind of wish he could.
Nice. Oh, did we slow-mo that follow-through?
It's pretty good.
Not bad.
That's
right?
pretty good.
Did you go oppo with it?
Yeah.
Is that what that is?
I pulled mine. I went right center with that.
That's not where your head went.
No, you were looking to left.
Well, imitating Keith Hernandez forces you to do a lot of correct things as a hitter. It kept me on the ball. I was thinking, man, I could hit this way.
You should have done that like 15 years ago.
Right.
We'll get in the
Go
cage,
back
buddy. We'll get in the cage.
Yep.
I'm excited for next week.
Oh, man. I'm nervous.
Yeah, I know you are. Jock Peterson leads it off. He's popped up and doubled tonight. Promo next week's Boondoggle this half inning when we get a moment.
It's like we just kind of left it out there.
Yeah.
I'm teasing it.
Yeah. Fly ball to left. One down. San Francisco at St. Louis. The Cardinal nominee is Matt Holliday. The Giants, as Booney continues to show just how broad his talents are. So you're going to, if Bochy is chosen, this is going to be him going to the mound to remove a pitcher?
I guess.
Well, it's not like this surprised you. You signed off on this, right? You're good with this?
Semi.
We kind of pressured him.
Yeah.
I feel like we were all in the room just deciding for him.
I hope Bochy's watching right now.
Yep. So if Boch wins, I'll be giving it a go.
Yeah.
I love that you practice these at home too. You'll be saying, "Oh, I was in my living room and I was going through this," and he's into it.
Yeah, I'm gonna. If Bochy wins, I'll just have one of my jobs this week will just be take an utter beating this week, so I can really get Boch's walk down to the mound.
Hey, he caught for a lot of years. He's earned the right? Aaron was working on his Keith Hernandez at dinner last night, and I mean like in the restaurant. Like got up from the table and broke it out in the middle of the restaurant.
See, if you had a stash, everyone would have thought you were him.
Yeah.
The 2-1 fouled off by Howie Kendrick. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Kendrick has reached on an error and flied out. 2 runs, 6 hits, no errors for the Dodgers. No runs, 2 hits, 1 error for the Mets. Cologne has been good. Kershaw has been great. Cologne, by the way, due to lead off next half inning. Cabrera, 2 down. Follow live baseball with the MLB.com at Bat app. Stay up to the moment at any moment with Game Day, live game video highlights, StatCast, news, and more. Download MLB.com at Bat, the #1 app for live baseball on your phone and tablet. So much excitement around this team after they made it all the way to the World Series last year. So much hype coming into this season. So much talk about the 4 young starters. One of whom we will see tomorrow in the Memorial Day game that we're going to do here between the White Sox and the Mets. Matt Harvey will be on the mound, and what a struggle it has been for Harvey this year. 3-7 with an ERA over 6. The Mets hopeful that they may have found a mechanical flaw in his last, I don't want to call it a bullpen session, because it wasn't just your typical bullpen session. He threw to live hitters, as he's done now twice in a row between starts.
Yeah, almost a simulated situation. The one thing you hope in doing that, trying to get him in a good rhythm, is that you don't work him too hard to where that fatigue sets in, which has been an issue for him the second and third times through these hitting orders to start the season.
And that's one thing that nobody can say for certain. First year off Tommy John, pitching deep into the playoffs, throwing 216 innings. Everybody remembers his agent Scott Boras saying, I think it was in late August, they should cap him at 180. He skipped a start in September, then he came back and he pitched, and they went deep into the playoffs. So nobody knows for certain if he's feeling fatigue.
Go ahead, Jess.
And you got some of the best pitchers in baseball right next to you. I mean, I think sometimes when you're not feeling it and you're not doing what you want to do, and you see Noah Syndergaard out there every day.
Kershaw with the ground ball to short, and that's the inning. Maybe the end of Cologne with him due to lead off the next half inning. Still 2-0 Dodgers. Baseball on ESPN, presented by Taco Bell. Dan Shulman, Aaron Boone, Jessica Mendoza, Buster Olney with you here at Citi Field. Clayton Kershaw and the Dodgers with a 2-0 lead as the Mets come up at the bottom of the sixth, and it is indeed the end of the night for Bartolo Colon. Kershaw will face Ty Kelly, who had his contract selected from AAA Las Vegas just 6 days ago. He is still looking for his first big league base hit. How much fun would it be for a young guy with about a week in the big leagues to be able to tell his kids and grandkids one day, my first hit was off Clayton Kershaw. Easier said than done. But he's got a shot at that here. Slider in for a strike, 1-1. This is his 8th major league at bat. He was hitting .391 at Las Vegas at the time of his call up.
I also wonder how many guys on the bench right now are like, I'm good. I got tonight off. Terry Collins.
Let the kid hit.
Yeah, it's his turn. Let's put the rook out there.
Two and two. So Colon out of the game after 6 good innings. But his team's been unable to generate any offenses. David Wright and Jacob deGrom look on. Antonio Bastardo will be the next pitcher for the Mets. Fouled back by Kelly. Again, the 2-2. And a fastball hit high in the air to shallow left field. Kendrick still getting comfortable out in the outfield, makes the play, 1 down. Let's take a look at tonight's pitching summary, brought to you by Carhartt. Cologne, as we mentioned, a pretty good outing. Good enough to lead with a lead, maybe win a game on most nights, but tonight, not one of those nights.
88 pitches for Bartolo on the night. I think I counted 4 off-speed pitches, 4 sliders, and I think 0 changeups.
Amazing.
Yeah.
His fastball's living at 87, 88, and how many hitters were late on it?
Yeah.
Curveball taken low, a ball and a strike on Granderson, who doubled to lead off the first, was stranded at third, and then grounded out a second time up. There's Drupal Cabrera waiting on deck. Two and two. So in his first 5 starts of May, we told you 5 wins, 55 strikeouts, 2 walks, only 3 runs allowed. And he is just adding to those totals here tonight. So in May now, he has thrown 47 1/3 innings. And he's given up 3 runs. Remember, he had a streak back in 2014, the year he won MVP. He had a 41 inning scoreless streak. He leads just about everybody in just about everything of significance at this point of the season. Granderson doesn't like it, but it's strikeout number 9.
Well, again, getting a little bit off that edge. We've seen it to the right-handed hitters off the inside corner. This pitch just off the edge away, but when you can command it like Kershaw has pretty much the entire night, you tend to get an extra inch or 2 off the edge. Granderson didn't like the call, but all it is another strikeout for the game's greatest.
His 9th of the night. Let's go down to Buster.
Guys, Kershaw's best strikeout to walk ratio in his career before this year was 7.7 to 1, and as we speak, it's close to 21 to 1. And I asked A.J. Ellis, why is he so much better this year? And he talked about how Kershaw this year has seemingly been much more effective in executing his first pitch in each plate appearance. And according to A.J., it's not just a get-me-over strike, it's a quality strike to start. He said if he gets strike 1, the world opens up to him with all the pitches he has. Guys, I wanted to throw some numbers past you when he gets ahead in the count. This year, coming into today's game, 151 at-bats against him. When he got ahead in the count 0-1, those at-bats, opponents hitting 113, 1 extra base hit, 151 at-bats. That extra base hit, Madison Bumgarner.
No end to the crazy numbers that Clayton Kershaw is putting up this season.
Well, and how he's been able to now, to Buster's point, get to that first pitch strike. Last year he was just coming and it was pretty consistent that it was more of a hittable pitch, 0-0, and so a lot of hitters were looking early in the count. So now he's been able to adjust that, and he throws that 0-0 pitch to get ahead now as if it's 0-2. That cat and mouse game. Hitters trying to figure out how to get to him. He adjusts, evolves along with AJ in their game plan.
As great as he's been, this is by far the best I've ever seen him. He's gone to another level this year in what he's doing this month.
Fly ball to left field and deep. Kendrick back at the wall. And it's a home run. Up above the fence, the signal from the second base umpire and third base umpires both are home run. Cabrera hits it out. And the Mets are on the board.
Well, right when I talked about him getting better and going to another level, Asdrubal Cabrera not impressed. He gets a hanging breaking ball and the ability to lay off the previous pitch, a curveball in the dirt. This time, this curveball stays up long enough, and Asdrubal Cabrera does a good job of letting that ball get deep so he's able to get the barrel to it. Kendrick gets back in position, but I think clearly off the hand and off the railing there in left field. Maybe a better look here.
Up above the orange line, up off the top of the railing, or maybe even somebody's hand. But the umpires are talking about this right now, whether they need to have a look at it. And they are going to have a look at it. And I think the issue may be, did the fan reach over the railing to interfere with the ball?
And he definitely reached over. The question is, the trajectory of that ball, was there going to be a chance that Howie Kendrick could have gotten it, or is it going to get hit off that back rail essentially?
I don't know that you have enough to overturn that, even if you feel that way.
Yep.
It never hit the railing. It hit the fan's hand up above the railing, and it looked like he was reaching over the railing a little bit.
Right, but I still think, take the fan out of it, I think it hits the railing maybe midway up, but certainly I think too difficult to overturn.
And the signal is, it is a home run. You can see the reaction from the fan in question, and the Mets are indeed on the board, now trailing 2-1. That's the first home run given up by Kershaw since April the 26th against the Marlins. Dodgers 2, Mets 1, bottom 6. The batter is Yoenis Cespedes, 0 for 2 on a couple of strikeouts.
Guys, this is what you hope for when you're facing Clayton Kershaw, just to somehow keep it close. And here you are in the 6th inning. You've got his pitch count up to 91 pitches. So is Kershaw going to be able to go 8 innings tonight? Certainly 9 looks out of the question. But remember, that underbelly of the Dodger bullpen before Kenley Jansen has been vulnerable.
The shortest start for Kershaw this year, 7 innings. He's gone 7 innings 4 times, 8 innings 3 times, and has thrown 3 shutouts. He's gone the distance 3 times, and all the complete games have been shutouts. This is Utley on the left side of the bag to throw out Cespedes and end the inning. A run, though, for the Mets as Asdrubal Cabrera goes deep, and it's now 2-1. Welcome back to Sunday Night Baseball from Citi Field. The Parkchester Little League gang is in attendance here tonight. It was founded back in 1956. It's just about 7 miles from Citi Field. This was the first league in the area to join the Little League Urban Initiative program back in 2005 when they attended their first jamboree at the Little League Baseball World Series complex in Williamsport. The Urban Initiative program was instrumental in helping renovate and secure the fields that this group now calls home. They had themselves a fun night earlier tonight. They visited with Michael Conforto and Jess earlier tonight, and now they saw Asdrubal Cabrera hit a home run off Clayton Kershaw. So that's a memory. Top of the order, Chase Utley. If you're just joining us, an uneventful night for Utley in terms of anything extracurricular. Antonio Bastardo comes out of the Met bullpen for Bartolo Colon. Bastardo last night faced 3 batters, didn't get an out. Gave up 2 hits and a walk, 3 earned runs. He has been very tough, though, on lefties this year. They're just 6 for 32 against him, a 188 average.
The guy they brought in to add to that setup mix in front of Familia, the closer. Fastball, slider change. That fastball usually in the low 90s. And that slider's his put-away pitch. You could see here.
There it is, and Utley looked like he knew it was coming and took it down and away for ball 1. After Utley, Seager, then Turner. Top of the Dodger lineup in a 1-run game, rubber match of this 3-game series. The Mets need a win to move back into a first-place tie with the Nationals. The Dodgers at the moment a 5 back of the Giants. Interesting week for the Dodgers. We mentioned they go to Chicago from here, a 4-game series. And you can see 2 of those games Tuesday night and Wednesday night here on ESPN. Including Jake Arrieta starting against the Dodgers on Tuesday night. The noise you hear is a wave going around Citi Field. They do love their Mets. And the Mets gave them a lot of reason to love them last year. Things going pretty well so far this season. There's strike 3 called. Utley strikes out 1 down. As mentioned, ESPN will be at Wrigley Field for back-to-back games between the Dodgers and the Cubs this week. Jake Arrieta starts on Tuesday night against the Dodgers. Wednesday night one more time, those same 2 teams at 8 o'clock Eastern time. And we'll be in St. Louis 1 week from tonight for the Giants and the Cardinals. Now, very important, Tuesday night, after you watch the Dodgers and the Cubs, don't go anywhere, because it's a special edition of Sports Center coming up after the game. John Abuchagras will have a guest Sports Center host with him. Are you excited?
I am.
You're like a little kid even more than you're usually like a little kid?
Well, you sometimes refer to me as a bit of a buffoon. It could be buffoonery.
There
with
could
John
be some
Buchagras.
buffoonery, yes.
I love it.
Yeah.
I'm going to tune in. I want to see you do some highlights.
Well, if I did some highlights, instead of referring to Antonio Bastardo in this game, I might go into Scott Van Pelt mode and go, Antonio Bastardo.
Right. He's imitating. Now hosts.
You're going to break down the Penguins and the Sharks for us on Tuesday night?
Oh yeah, we'll have Barry Melrose in studio, making sure I'm up to speed.
We've been around here in the last couple of days. He is legitimately excited about this. This is big. This is going to be fun.
Yeah. I'm excited.
1-2, the count on Seager. Just low. Have you ever covered highlights before? You've never talked your way through. Well, I guess on Baseball Tonight, you are. Carl's doing most of that, or at
you guys have heard me in my broadcaster voice, you know, like just kind of being buffoonerish.
I think less serious Booney, more fun, and imitating Booney would be the best. Bucci Grassi doesn't have to lay out. He's going to be laughing so hard.
I'm just going to follow his lead.
How's your hockey?
Probably needs some work.
Might need a little work.
But Bucci's strong in that area.
Yeah, that's true. 3-2. High in the air to shallow right field. Granderson in. 2 down. All right, let's pretend it's Tuesday night. And boom, this graphic pops up. Go.
We've got Jake Arrieta on our airwaves, and we'll follow right after the ball game on SportsCenter. Jake Arrieta, one of the best in the game, going up against these Dodgers.
Wait, what happened just? What are you doing now? What happened?
I'm trying to figure
You became a different person like halfway through. Who are you now?
You're still a baseball player talking about a pitcher.
I'm sweating. That guy's really good.
Like halfway through, another person went,
His voice changed.
climbed inside and said, "I'm taking over." I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just pointing it out.
I thought that was like a tryout.
He is sweating too.
Yeah. Well, America gets to see him imitate batting stances. They don't get to hear him imitate broadcasters all that often. Maybe a good thing.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Yeah. Although we have fun with it. Justin Turner's 1 for 3. Had a base hit his last time up. It is lively here at Citi Field right now. That home run by Cabrera seemed to really spark the crowd and give them a feeling of hope that maybe they could get even more done against Kershaw.
You know what I think really sparked them? That strikeout to Chase Utley to start off this inning. They exploded after booing him for 3 straight days and not getting any result that they wanted.
Well, there's no doubt this has been the best atmosphere I think we've seen on Sunday night so far this year. It absolutely has that playoff atmosphere.
Definitely.
There's some angst, there's some excitement in the crowd. Summer you can feel in the air. It's hot.
Low ball 4.
The best seats at every ballpark for every game. Visit MLB.com/tickets today.
Well done.
Did you notice the dramatic pause?
I
at
did.
The end, Dan?
I did.
And the beginning.
Yeah.
Do you dramatically pause at the beginning too?
I mean, because you were winking at me as you did it?
Oh, nothing but the best.
Here's Gonzalez. Had a big RBI single his last time up. They made it 2-0 at the time. The Mets have gotten a run back on the home run by Asdrubal Cabrera. Gonzalez hitting over 400 on the road this year. Turner leaning a little bit, bluffing as if he's going to start. He has unnerved Bastardo enough that he draws another throw. Turner does not have a steal this season.
But it's a good job by him of getting out there, and because this is that situation where you might go, you got lefty on lefty. Hey, maybe with 2 outs, try and get into scoring position. If nothing else, you get a piece of the mind of Bastardo, and there you may net a mistake for your cleanup hitter.
Outside.
Because this is a situation where Gonzalez is looking, especially now that he's ahead in the count, even though it's a lefty, he's got a man on first, so he knows it's an extra base hit here with 2 outs that would score him potentially. So he's looking in a particular area, probably for a pitch up and out over the plate, that he can elevate and drive in a gap somewhere.
And after walking Turner, Bastardo's now 2-0 on Gonzalez. Six straight balls thrown by the lefty. Jim Henderson continues to warm in the bullpen. Runner is going. And a stolen base for Justin Turner, his first of the season.
Again, he was working hard over there, gets a great jump. No chance for Plawecki, even if he gets rid of that. Too good a jump by Turner. And now you've got a great hitter's count for Adrian Gonzalez, 2-1 here. And now a base hit would be a huge insurance run potentially for the LA Dodgers. Plawecki went out there to talk to him. First base open, Puig struggling in the right hand of the pen. You cannot give in to Adrian Gonzalez right here.
Oh, wow. I was thinking slider away for sure. Try to make him chase. This is exactly the location that Gonzalez wants. You mentioned it earlier. He's wishing he had this pitch back. He's a little bit late on it, maybe because he was expecting something a little bit more away from him, but that's middle and up.
Two balls and two strikes, the count on the always dangerous Adrian Gonzalez, trying to drive in another run here tonight, get that Dodger lead back to 2 if he can come up with a base hit off the lefty. Turner the lead out at second, and the pitch down and away, and the count is full.
Again, 3-2 here. You still cannot give in to Adrian Gonzalez. You've got to think in terms of, I'm going to execute my best pitch. I'm going to locate it perfectly where I want on the plate, or work it off the plate. Worst case scenario, I put him on, and I've got a righty in the pen waiting for Yasiel Puig, who struggled much of the season. But you got to make your best pitch in this spot. Do not give in to Gonzalez.
3-2. Jammed him. Popped up into shallow center field. And the inning is over. 7th inning stretch at Citi Field. The Dodgers 2 and the Mets 1. Sunday Night Baseball from Citi Field in New York, and the game's greatest pitcher, Clayton Kershaw. 6 innings, has allowed just 1 run. He has struck out 9 as he continues to mow down hitters. But as Asdrubal Cabrera did touch him up for a home run. So going to the bottom of the 7th, the Dodgers lead is 2-1 in the rubber match of this 3-game series. Let's take a look at our game track, brought to you by Carhartt. Kershaw has not walked a batter, so he's now at 104 strikeouts and 5 walks on the season. The Mets have 3 hits in the game, 2 doubles and a home run. The home run by Cabrera, but it's the Dodgers with the lead as Kershaw makes his way into the 7th inning. And at 93 pitches, he'll face Neil Walker, Juan Lagares, and Wilmer Flores.
One thing to keep in mind, guys, Kenley Jansen, their closer, has not pitched since Wednesday. So it's conceivable to think that he would be available for more than just an inning, more than just 3 outs. He's done that a few times so far this season and well rested into tonight. So Kershaw would figure to have probably 20-25 more pitches at least, but hard to envision him getting the complete game just where his pitch count is at this point.
The highest number of pitches that Kershaw has thrown in a game this year, 116. Did that against Atlanta back on April 21st. Jansen has worked more than an inning 3 times this year, got 4 outs twice, got 5 outs once. Bullpen Matt doesn't get a lot of work on Kershaw nights.
Once Kershaw exits at about 650.
Pops him up on the 3-1. Should be playable, and it is for Ellis. 1 down. Let's go down to Buster Olney.
I talked to A.J. Ellis the other day, and he was telling me one of the great things about Kershaw is that no matter what happens, he's locked into his workout routine. He trusts his workout routine. The Dodgers probably will get to Chicago sometime 2 or 3 in the morning. He said tomorrow morning, the first day after he starts, he'll be out at about 10 o'clock at Wrigley Field running 3 rounds of lifting. Day 2, bullpen session. Day 3, 2 rounds of lifting. Hot and cold bath on day 4. More running. There's a lot more to it than that, but he says that Kershaw has absolute trust in that workout regimen. And Kershaw once said to me he wants to make sure he checks every box before he starts so he has peace of mind.
Well, whatever he's doing it right. And it's paying off for him. He's having a sensational season as he misses inside with a slider for ball 2. Lagares has struck out twice.
Now at 100 pitches, and he fell behind Walker 3-1 here. First 2 pitches out of the zone to Lagares, so perhaps showing some signs of fatigue starting to set in. Another thing to keep in mind, really one of the first real hot days and nights of the summer. So that could come into play a little bit, even for the outstanding conditioning of Clayton Kershaw.
Lagares reaching down as if he were going to take off a shin guard or something and head down to first, but it's at the knees for a strike. 3-1. Wilmer Flores waiting for his turn. Battles back to a full count. And that pitch was held. I think that Lagares is asking if it hit the dirt. It was clearly fouled off, but did it hit the dirt? And Tom Hallion says no, so that's a strikeout.
I thought it did hit the dirt with the naked eye. I thought A.J. Ellis just kind of sold it quickly and came up fire into third. Get a good look at it here. Looks like another breaking ball. Slider. Yeah, it definitely hit the dirt.
Not a reviewable play. And that's strikeout number 10 for Kershaw.
Great sell by A.J. Ellis.
Now Flores pops it up. And just like that, the inning is over. 7 in the books for Kershaw. The Dodgers still lead 2-1. Again is presented by Taco Bell's Beefy Crunch and Cheesy Double Beef Burritos. And in part by Lexus. Introducing the 241 horsepower Lexus IS 200 Turbo. More baseball comes your way tomorrow. Memorial Day, and the first game of the doubleheader will be from right here at Citi Field. We will bring you the Mets hosting the Chicago White Sox. Matt Harvey and Jose Quintana. And the second game, Joe Mauer and the Twins. Coming off a sweep of Seattle, they'll take on the Oakland A's. Both games also streaming live on Watch ESPN and the ESPN app. New pitcher for the Mets is right-hander Addison Reed.
Addison's been really good. Came over late last season, was part of the setup mix coming over from the Diamondbacks. Fastball slider, former closer. Been outstanding with the strikeouts, and the command has been excellent. Just 5 walks in 20 innings.
Yasiel Puig swings at the first pitch, fly ball to left field, but running it down is Cespedes, one down. So is Clayton Kershaw coming back for the bottom of the 8th or not? He's over 100 pitches.
Remember what he told us before the game, Dave Roberts, that every time when he approaches Kershaw told him in spring training, I will always tell you I'm ready to pitch.
105 pitches. There is activity in the Dodger bullpen. There is not. He sat down. Lewis Coleman apparently was up but has now sat down in the Dodger pen. So maybe Kershaw talked his way back in.
Which is interesting because Dave was explicit about, as Buster said in spring training, he said, when I come up to you and talk to you during a game, Clayton said, I'm always going to tell you I'm fine. It's ultimately your call.
Safe at first is Peterson. As that ball ricocheted off the glove of Campbell out to Walker in shallow right, and by that time they didn't have a chance for a play.
Well, Another ball hit sharply off the bat of Peterson, but certainly a play that Campbell should have handled, just perhaps a little late getting that glove down, as that ball was hit a little harder than maybe he anticipated. No chance for Walker to get him on the rebound.
You know, one other thing to consider here about Kershaw, he's 2 spots away in the batting order,
Yep.
and if the Dodgers have something going, bases loaded, 1 out, maybe even 2 on 2 out, then the decision may be out of his hands if Dave Roberts decides to go for an extra bat.
And he just went down the tunnel, so it kind of looks like he's not going to hit, and Carl Crawford just ran down the tunnel behind him, maybe as if he's going to get ready to hit in his spot if there is a good scoring opportunity for the Dodgers here.
Howie Kendrick's 0 for 3. Big gap at left center field. They really play Kendrick to hit the ball to the right center field gap. That's where Lagares is. You can see how far over to your right, his left, he is. Oh-2. And time called before the pitch. There's Carl Crawford, so he might get a pinch hitting opportunity here at Kershaw's spot.
And now the Dodger bullpen, Lewis Coleman is getting back up. See Josh Bard, the bullpen coach down there, saying, yeah, let's get him hot.
One ball, 2 strikes.
K zone had this catching the bottom of the zone. Anytime that K lights up, it caught a portion of the bottom of that strike zone. Tom Hallion had it just low, a borderline pitch nonetheless, but break for the Dodgers.
Sent foul off to the right.
Part of the reason why Howie Kendrick has been swinging the bat so well the last few weeks. That last foul ball kind of shows it. Howie Kendrick, when he's going well, he's going opposite field. He's letting that bat stay behind the zone. That's what he's trying to do right now against Reed.
So Dave Roberts giving Kershaw the permutations and combinations here about whether or not he's going to be back on the mound. And a swing and a miss for out number 2. Well, on the eve of Memorial Day, as we remember those who gave their lives while serving in our country's armed forces, we want to recognize 2 former Dodgers who wore the uniform and also served our country, as we take a look at our Memorial Day tribute brought to you by USAA. Pee Wee Reese on the left, U.S. Navy Chief Petty Officer, missed 3 seasons due to military service. And Jackie Robinson was inducted into the U.S. Army during World War II in 1942, graduated from Officer Candidate School and earned his 2nd lieutenant's bars. 2 down in the inning. Peterson is still at first. A.J. Ellis, the batter, and Carl Crawford's in the on-deck circle in Kershaw's spot, should it get that far this inning. Coleman ready if he's needed in the 8th inning, but obviously if Ellis makes it out here when the inning ends, Kershaw could go back out. It looks like he probably would go back out, just given the way he's pacing around and trying to stay ready in that dugout. Carl Crawford, kind of a forgotten guy right now, not playing a whole lot, mostly a pinch hitter. He's been on the DL this year, only hitting .209, and he's been relegated to backup duty.
They've also got Andre Ethier, of course, who's on the disabled list after being injured earlier in spring. They're hoping they're going to get him back sometime around the All-Star break.
One and two the count. Crowd of better than 42,000 here at Citi Field. And Ellis fouls it back.
Well, the way Kershaw is pacing around in that dugout, it definitely looks like he's in this game if A.J. Ellis makes an out here.
Just low. And you can see from the body language of Plawecki and the grimace from Reed, they both wanted that one.
This one does not catch the bottom of the zone. No K lights up. That means it did not catch any portion of the bottom of that zone. A zone, of course, there's a lot of talk that may be raised at the end of the year by an inch or two.
Fly ball to center field. And the inning is over. Going to the bottom of the eighth. Looks like Kershaw may be going back to work. We go to the bottom of the eighth inning here at Citi Field. The Dodgers 2 and the Mets 1. Kershaw at 105 pitches entering this inning, the most he's thrown in a game this year, 116. The bullpen is up. Kevin Plawecki, number 7 hitter in the Mets lineup. Their catcher leads off the inning and lines the ball into center field, a base hit.
Well, let's take a look at how dominant Clayton Kershaw's been tonight with the strikeouts. First, the fastball working both sides of the plate, but a lot to the glove side. He's dominated as Hallian's given him an inch or two. Then the slider, the wipeout slider that he starts at the bottom of the zone, has gotten some swing and misses. And then the curveball. He's started up around the belt for the most part and has gotten some chases down below the zone. He's been brilliant tonight, but these last few hitters, I think, definitely starting to show a little bit of fatigue. He's fallen behind and he's made some mistakes in the heart of the plate.
He stays in the game. Eric Campbell is the batter. And Michael Conforto's come out into the on-deck circle for the Mets to bat in the pitcher spot. Shows bunt, and he takes ball 2. Meanwhile, the bullpen is up, and now it's left-hander Adam Liberatore. And this may be in anticipation of Conforto pinch hitting, which it looks like he's going to. Granderson would be after that. I'm a little surprised, I don't know about you guys, that Jansen isn't up already in case he has to come in after that.
Yeah, I don't think they want to go 2 full innings with Jansen. So maybe after Kershaw gets an out or 2, then it would be Jansen no matter what.
I would be surprised though. Kenley Jansen, he's been that pitcher that wants the ball because he's seen what has happened with the bullpen and getting him the ball usually from the starting pitchers to him, especially right now with Kershaw. He's told me before he'll even call the dugout and say, put me in. I don't care if it's 4 outs, 5 outs, 6 outs.
The lead at first by Plawecki. Remember, the Mets are a man down tonight. David Wright's not available, so they're a man short on the bench. Shows bunt, and he takes a strike, and it's 2-2. So the remaining bench for the Mets, Michael Conforto, who's in the on-deck circle, Alejandro Diaza, and backup catcher Rene Rivera. Meanwhile, for the Mets, the left-hander is Jerry Blevins. The right-hander is their closer, Juris Familia. Two balls, 2 strikes, the count. And a fly ball to shallow center. Out number 1.
And now you'll see Jansen get up. I'm certain of it. Now with 1 out.
Conforto getting a big round of applause as he is announced into the game as a pinch hitter. Remember, Dave Roberts told us before the game he had not gone to the mound to talk to or remove Clayton Kershaw all season. That's still in play here as pitching coach Rick Honeycutt heads out to the mound.
Well, with Conforto and Granderson on deck, I think Kershaw's got 2 more hitters tonight, tops. And that you've now got Kenley Jansen warming in the bullpen. So the last 2 pitchers, the Dodgers' hope of this game, are Clayton Kershaw handing the ball to Kenley Jansen.
These two have never faced each other. Clayton Kershaw versus Mike Conforto. I was talking to Conforto before the game. I said, well, this isn't a bad game to sit out. And he said, you know what though? I'd love a chance to face the best. Here's your chance.
Fastball swung on and missed. 94 miles an hour, and it's 0-1. Tying run at first. Go ahead run at the plate with 1 out here in the bottom of the 8th inning, and the shift on against Conforto. Outside. Sellouts all weekend here at Citi Field. We saw a walk-off win for the Mets Friday night, a 9-1 win for the Dodgers last night. This ball's lined to center field, but it carries to Peterson for the 2nd out. And now one way or the other, may not even get that far. Dave Roberts is up, and is he coming out to get him? It looks like he is, and he's going to make a double switch. So for the first time this year, Kershaw will get taken out in the middle of an inning.
And I think this is the right move. Kershaw, I think, has definitely hit the end from a fatigue standpoint. You've got Kenley ready to go for a 4-out save. And some of the best at-bats of the night have been Granderson against Kershaw.
Sports Service delivers everything you have come to expect and more. Watch every out-of-market game live in HD on over 400 supported devices. Includes a free subscription to At-Bat Premium, the ♥1 app for live baseball. Blackout and other restrictions apply. Visit MLB.tv for details. So Clayton Kershaw is out of the game after 7 2/3. He's given up 1 run on the home run to Asdrubal Cabrera. The runner at first is his responsibility. No walks, 10 strikeouts, so he's now up to 105 strikeouts and only 5 walks on the season, a 21-to-1 ratio. And it's left-hander Adam Liberatore who comes into the game to face the left-hand hitting Curtis Granderson. Liberatore has been very tough on lefties this year. They're just 3 for 28 against him, so it's a lefty reliever for Kershaw, and in all likelihood just for 1 batter no matter how this goes.
Yeah, I thought at this point with 4 outs remaining, I thought it would be handed off to Jansen with all the rest that he's had the last few days. But Liberatore's been very good against lefties, as we see Kike Hernandez now taking over in left field in that double switch.
So put Hernandez in the 9th spot. The pitcher now batting 7th. Lefty against lefty, up and in, ball 1. You saw Joe Blanton's also up in the pen with Kenley Jansen. Crowd not happy that that pitch was up and in, but obviously no intent. In the dirt, ball 2.
I'm stunned that they.
Yeah, I'm absolutely shocked
That they didn't go straight to Jansen.
No, that they didn't go straight to Jansen or just leave Clayton in for
right.
1 more hitter, lefty on lefty.
And I can't imagine that's not going through his head. If you're going to take me out for another lefty, you expect to hand it over to your closer who's been so dominant throughout the season.
Bounced foul, 2-1.
Granderson, who led this game off with a double, and has since grounded to short and struck out, but has had some very good at-bats, has gotten into some good counts, good hitters counts, and a slow start to the season, but starting to reminisce that hitter he was in the second half of last season, that patience and power combination.
A fly ball to right field. It is deep, and Puig cannot make the catch. Plawecki around third. He will come in to score, sliding into third. Granderson, and the game is tied.
you're playing the numbers with Liberatore lefty on lefty, but Granderson has been so solid. The reason is keeping his front side in. This pitch middle to middle away, and Granderson all over, barely just clearing, almost clearing the wall. Puig makes an excellent effort to try to make this catch. And Granderson all the way to third with the tying RBI.
The bullpen ahead of Kenley Jansen has again been an issue for the Dodgers this season as we look at Clayton Kershaw's reaction to Puig not being able to come up with that catch in right field, which would have been a great catch. But this has been the Achilles heel for the Dodgers the last couple of seasons. As good as they've been, they've had a hard time at times getting that ball to Kenley Jansen. But Stan Liberatore is in this game at this time.
Facing the switch hitter as Asdrubal Cabrera, who hit a home run from this side of the plate against Kershaw in his last at-bat, and who's hitting for a higher average from this side of the plate than he is from the left side. But Liberatore stays. Blanton continues to throw. Jansen has stopped, and the Mets have tied it here in the bottom of the 8th inning. Oh, 0-2.
Dan, we had a really nice shot in that sequence of Jansen in the bullpen, who had been warming up, and as he walked down to sit down, he shook his head.
Yep. Like, why am I not in this game?
Absolutely.
So it has not paid off for Dave Roberts, lifting Kershaw for Liberatore. Granderson, who had a walk-off home run on Friday night with a game-tying RBI triple here on Sunday night. The 0-2. Swing and a miss. And the inning is over. But a big inning here for the Mets. Curtis Granderson with another huge hit, an RBI triple. There will be no win for Clayton Kershaw tonight. It's now tied at 2. With a huge hit, a 2-out RBI triple in the bottom of the 8th off Dodger reliever Adam Liberatore, has tied the game at 2. Clayton Kershaw taken out of the game at 114 pitches, but instead of going to Kenley Jansen for a 4-out save, Dave Roberts goes to a left-hander. Liberatore to face the left-hand hitting Granderson, and Yasiel Puig did everything he could do, but came up about 6 inches short of making that catch.
It would have been a great play, no doubt about it. The thing I'm a little surprised in seeing, though, aside from Liberatore being in the game in that situation, is with 2 outs and the tying run at first base, why the outfield and Puig wasn't playing a little deeper, protecting against the extra base hit. If he's playing deep in that spot, it's probably kind of a routine catch for him.
Juris Familia into the game for the Mets, and Kike Hernandez, who came on the double switch and was 3 for his last 50, comes up with a leadoff base hit here in the 9th inning.
You know, we talked about Justin Turner and even to a degree Adrian Gonzalez, but Kike Hernandez, as a role player, is a really good hitter that has really struggled these first couple months. That is a guy they desperately want to get going, because when he's right, the nights he plays, he's an impact offensive player and a catalyst for this Dodger team. As we got to look at Familia, the Mets closer, and now on.
Familia facing Utley, who hit a 3-run double off him in the 9th inning on Friday night. Familia gave up 4 runs in that game. It was 5-1 Mets going to the 9th inning. And Familia gave up 4 runs to tie the game at 5 before Granderson won it with a walk-off homer. So it's not a blown save for Familia, because it wasn't a safe situation when he came in. But he did allow 4 runs. He's been tremendous most of the season for the Mets. Utley has been a thorn in the side of the Mets all weekend. Drove in 4 on Friday, drove in 5 last night. Now a broken bat pop up in foul territory. Plawecki will make the catch. Most of the bat is stuck like a javelin beyond first base down the line.
Well, guys, he's hurt them this weekend series on pitches on the inner half, but this is another level of sinking fastball here, and he blows up the bat of Chase Utley. As that ball, Utley probably expected to run over the inner half of the plate, but stayed a little more true, a little more north and south on that sinker, probably in on the corner just off, and gets way in the kitchen of Chase Utley.
It was Syndergaard who got tossed out of the game in the 3rd inning last night after throwing behind Utley. Joke before the game that he's available tonight. He only threw 34 pitches last night. Corey Seager, the batter, he's 2 for 4. Hit a home run last night. And he takes ball 1. So we're tied at 2 here in the top of the 9th inning. Dodgers, as we mentioned, heading to Chicago. They will take on the Cubs. You'll see the Tuesday and Wednesday games on ESPN. The Mets will stay home and host the White Sox, and we'll bring you that game tomorrow, part of the Memorial Day doubleheader. Jose Quintana and Matt Harvey, a 1 o'clock Eastern time start from New York. Weather permitting, there's supposed to be some heavy rain in the Northeast tomorrow. Blanton on the left, Jansen on the right. Kershaw still hanging out in the dugout. His final line, 7 2/3, 2 runs earned. Didn't walk a batter, struck out 10. Gave up 4 hits. He'll get a no decision. Liberatore blowing the save, giving up the triple to Granderson that tied the game.
Guys, the one thing we said, you got to give the Mets credit, is they hung around and they at least got Kershaw's pitch count on a warm night to a point where it became an issue, and their goal to get to the underbelly of the Dodger bullpen ahead of Kenley Jansen. And while we think Kenley should have been in the game, or Kershaw in that spot, tip your cap to the Mets for at least grinding away against the game's greatest pitcher, who had a really good night.
Two is inside. 2 balls, 2 strikes on Seager. They split 4 games at Dodger Stadium 3 weeks ago. They've split the first 2 here in this series. They went the distance, a 5-game division series last year before the Mets won. Hernandez the lead. And the 2-2. Count now full as Milwaukee finds it.
I think you send him here. For as overpowering as that sinker can be for Familia, it's still a ball that, a fastball you would expect that sinker to be put in play by Corey Seager and possibly even on the ground. So I think you absolutely got to get the game in motion here for the Dodgers.
Runner is going. 3-2 taken inside, ball 4. The Dodgers trying to reclaim the lead they lost when Curtis Granderson did this. Got a pitch over the inner half and drilled it to deep right field, just beyond the reach of Yasiel Puig, racing it back into the triangle there, 370 feet away. Puig frustrated he couldn't make the catch. The triple tied the game.
Granderson's at bat have been very reminiscent of the player he was in the second half. He struggled a little bit to start this season, but a lot of good at bats, patient at bats. He's got some good hitters counts and got a pitch he can handle to tie this score.
In this entire series, I mean,
yep.
He had the walk-off home run Friday night against the Dodgers, and he's hitting just barely over 200, but his at bats against the Dodgers, when it mattered the most, to lead off the game against Kershaw, coming in right there to tie the game.
Here's Justin Turner. Turner 1 for 3 with a run driven in and a walk tonight. The go-ahead run out at second, Hernandez. Seager's at first with just 1 out, and Familia misses down and away, ball 1.
I'm really interested to see Justin Turner right here. The biggest MO with his struggles right now has been being late. He hasn't been able to get his barrel out front, and right now he's matched up against 96 miles an hour. It's going to sink down if he can get his barrel out.
The Dodgers just 1 for 8 with runners in scoring position tonight. Bounced in, ball 2, and the party atmosphere from a few minutes ago is completely gone right now. There's nervousness and grumbling and muttering, and Dan Worthen, the pitching coach, is on his way to the mound.
That's a true Mets fan right there. More the grumbling and the nervousness.
After we're done here at Citi Field, stick around for Sports Center at night. John Buccigross and Kevin Connors, they'll have all the highlights from the Indy 500, the French Open, Major League Baseball, and the rest of the day in sports. Sports Center at night coming up next right here on ESPN. Maybe, Aaron, you'll get one of those little pictures down there on Tuesday night when they promote the Tuesday night Sports Center.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
You know, this is the one thing, though, if you're Turner here, you talk about getting the bat head out in front against a sinker ball, or if he's down in the zone, in a lot of ways you're playing into his hands by, if you're out in front, because you roll it over on the ground. You want to keep this ball back through the middle and the other way, even though you're ahead in the count.
Ball 3.
This is a take situation all the way. You got the lefty Adrian Gonzalez on deck. You got Familia struggling to command that sinker. No way you turn Turner loose in this spot.
At the knees, 3-1. Kind of a nervous cheer from Met fans after that first called strike. The count still in Turner's favor. Adrian Gonzalez on deck for the Dodgers. Way outside, and the bases are loaded. 2 tough outings in a row in this series for Familia. The left-hander Blevins is up. Left-hand hitting Adrian Gonzalez is the batter, but it looks like Familia is going to stay. 3 for 5 in his career against Familia. 1 for 3 with a walk and an RBI tonight. And this is, Aaron, you talked about it earlier. This is when he really gets tough, and he will cut down the swing or hit the ball the other way. Just do something to get that run in. On the appeal, no swing, ball 1.
But most importantly, he's looking to get something that he can hit in the air, especially with that sinker. Familia is always a pitch away from getting out of some trouble. Gonzalez discipline, hit the ball in the air in the middle of the field the other way. That's what he's looking to do.
Chased an inside fastball, and you can see he's not happy with himself. The count 1-1.
He almost chased the slider the previous pitch, which you don't see a lot from Familia. There just did not see that ball well. That's a pitch he probably wants to ignore, at least till he gets to 2 strikes. Gonzalez wants to discipline to push him out over the plate away, something he can elevate in the air.
Bases loaded, 1 out. Checks the swing of the breaking ball, 2-1.
And I think the Mets and Familia might come right back in with that 2-seam fastball that they got the bad swing for strike 1.
Kershaw still visible in the dugout, out of the game, of course, for those just joining us, but still pacing in the dugout in this tie game. Up the middle and through, a base hit. 1 run is home. Here comes Seager. The throw is up the line, and the Dodgers have a 4-2 lead. What a weekend for Adrian Gonzalez. He's now got 8 hits in the series.
But such a great job. I think Familia and Plawecki made the pitch that they wanted to. After Gonzalez looked really uncomfortable the first 3 pitches of this at bat, they get the fastball in. But Jess, you talked about how Gonzalez has done such a good job of clearing that hip, and by clearing that front side, that pitch in on the hands, by clearing, he's able to catch enough of the ball deep in the zone to get enough bat on ball and keep it through the middle of the field. Elevated, a huge hit by a great RBI man.
More runs allowed this weekend than the previous 7-8 weeks of the season. 4-2 Dodgers. Here's Puig. He went around, and it's 0-1. Puig is 0 for 4 tonight. So the Dodgers surrender the lead in the bottom of the 8th, get it right back in the top of the 9th. And for sure, it's Jansen time now. Ground ball to short. There's 1 and 2 to end the inning. But a guy who's done it so many times before, who's driven in so many runs in his career, does it again here tonight. Adrian Gonzalez with a 2-run single to break the tie, and the Dodgers take a lead to the bottom of the 9th. RBIs tonight, including a clutch 2-run single in the top of the ninth, and the Dodgers have a 4-2 lead going to the bottom of the ninth against the Mets. And now it's time for the big fella, Kenley Jansen, their closer. He is 14 for 16 in save situations on the season. He has not pitched since Wednesday. He's got some really impressive numbers: 20 strikeouts to 1 walk. Look at the whip, the walks plus hits divided by innings pitched, 0.58. He's only walked 1 guy in 19 innings. Cespedes, Walker, and Lagares, 3, 4, 5 scheduled. And a fastball there for a strike.
Well, if you're the Mets, this is the part of the order you want up to bat. Cespedes leads the league in home runs. The only 2 batters in this lineup to have hits against Jansen are Walker and Lagares, who are 2 and 3.
Swing and a miss, 0-2.
Jansen will pretty much throw over 90% fastball, occasional slider, but it's low mid 90s with the fastball that has that little natural cut to it. There he started that ball in off the plate, brought it back to the corner and blew away Cespedes.
Cespedes lays off that high fastball for ball 1.
That's a pitch he swings at last year.
Yep.
That's been the little adjustment he's been able to make from a discipline standpoint, laying off that pitch at the belt and above more frequently and chasing less breaking balls in the dirt. He's seen the on-base percentage go up, and still the outstanding production from a power standpoint remain.
Up and in, 2 balls, 2 strikes.
Now that one, though, is a mistake by Jansen because it's too high and too far in. So he sees it as getting out of the way. Move that ball more over the center of the plate and up, and that's a pitch you might get him to bite. I'd try it again, but put it on the plate.
Swing and a miss, and a pitch down the middle at 95, 1 down.
Just good old-fashioned hard ball. That's my best fastball. I think is better than yours, and it is right in the heart of the plate. That little bit of cut action, and he blows Cespedes away for the first out of the inning. You see Cespedes just a little long and a little late.
1 down, Neil Walker, and a little bit high for ball 1. Walker turns around to bat for the left side against the right-hander Jansen. He's 1 for 3 tonight. Doubled off Kershaw back in the 4th inning. 4-2 Dodgers, bottom 9. Fought hard to get back into it. The Cabrera home run in the 6th inning, the 2-out RBI triple by Granderson in the 8th, tying it up, only to give it right back in the top of the 9th. And Juris Familia with his 2nd rough outing in as many appearances. Don't forget, White Sox and Mets tomorrow afternoon at 1 Eastern here on ESPN. First game of the Memorial Day doubleheader. The Twins and A's in the 2nd game. And then if you're a fan of Adriana Gonzalez and the Dodgers, you can see the Dodgers and Cubs Tuesday night and Wednesday night here on ESPN this week. One-two is high, and as we mentioned, it'll be Matt Harvey on the mound for the Mets tomorrow afternoon. Been a rough stretch for him. 3-7 with an ERA of 6.08. He'll try to get right tomorrow against the White Sox. Jose Quintana will start for Chicago. Fly ball to right field, but it's playable for Puig. 2 down.
Jose Quintana, who probably doesn't get the recognition or the love on the national scene that has been one of the big reasons the White Sox have been so good to start this year. That 1-2 punch with Chris Sale. He's off to a tremendous start, an all-star caliber start this season.
about the Mets? They get Clayton Kershaw. It was going to be Chris Sale for a short bit tomorrow. They get number 2 in the American League, and Jose Quintana, another lefty.
Here's Juan Lagares, who takes inside, ball 1. They are starting to stream for the exits here with 2 outs in the bottom of the 9th, and the Dodgers up 4-2. The Dodgers an out away from taking the series and staying within 4.5 of the Giants in the National League West. The Mets with a loss would fall a game behind the Nationals. This one's popped up. Weeks coming in, and the Dodgers win it. Jansen against the save. Adrian Gonzalez with a big hit of the night, the 2-run single in the top of the 9th inning, and the Dodgers take 2 out of 3, beating the Mets 4-2 here at Citi Field tonight. White Sox and the Mets, A's and Twins tomorrow, Dodgers and Cubs Tuesday and Wednesday, and we've got the Giants and the Cardinals for you 1 week from tonight. Again, the final score, the Dodgers 4 and the Mets 2. For Aaron Boone, Jessica Mendoza, Buster Olney, and our entire crew, I'm Dan Shulman saying so long from Citi Field. Thanks for watching. SportsCenter is next.